Chapter 336. On the evening of April 15th, Lu Chen officially announced his plans to shoot a new TV series on his blog. In this blog post, he first thanked his fans for their support, apologized for the delay in revealing the news of the new TV series, and specially explained that it was because of the production of Qin Fei's album. Of course, the main point was that the script of the new TV series had been written and would soon enter the project production link. As for the questions that fans were most concerned about, Lu Chen answered 3 in the blog post. First of all, about the genre of the new work, it was still an urban romance drama, but the story would not be the same as that of Indigo. Secondly, the new TV series had more episodes than Indigo, which was expected to be 25 episodes. Finally, the male and female leads were still Lu Chen and Qin Fei. As soon as the news revealed on Lu Chen's blog was announced, it first caused a huge sensation in the fan circle. It was really called out. Everyone was looking forward to it, and now there was finally accurate and reliable news. It's finally here. It's not easy. I hope it can be filmed and broadcast as soon as possible. Yeah, after watching Autumn in My Heart, I always feel fake and awkward when I watch other shows. I don't like it. Big Lu Chen, what's the name of the new TV series? It's still My Qin and My Fei, hooray. Throwing flowers to celebrate, the fans were in high spirits, but the people in the circle heard the news and broke the threshold of Lu Chen's studio. Lu Shi's phone directly exploded. There were too many units that wanted to cooperate with Lu Chen and Lu Chen's studio on the new TV series. Many famous big companies in the industry sent representatives to negotiate, such as Jia Hua, Crown, Jin Libao, etc., which were all big shots. There were also TV stations, Zhedong Satellite TV, Haijin Satellite TV, Deep Sea Satellite TV, Beijing Television. They also called to seek cooperation opportunities. Autumn in My Heart was really too popular. Not only did it break the ratings record in China, but it was also broadcast in South Korea. The next step was likely to be promoted to Japan and other Southeast Asian countries, which was really good and popular. Everyone had missed this incomparably delicious big cake, so how could they just stand by and watch the new cake be indifferent? That was why investors and partners came one after another. In addition to these companies and units, many entertainment agencies also wanted a piece of the pie. Many star artists were interested in playing a role in the new drama, and they all used their connections to find Lu Chen's studio. Lu Chen even received a call from Chen Jinhao. This would-be nanny dad had retired and was preparing to become a father. Logically speaking, he should not care about the affairs of the world anymore. Unfortunately, as someone who used to be in the circle, he could not get rid of the entanglement of relationships in the circle. He was asked to speak to Lu Chen. It's impossible to be the main character, let's have a supporting role. There were really a lot of people who wanted roles, such as Flying Stone Records, Light Rain Media, and SPG. There were several that Lu Chen had agreed to or had agreements with earlier. There were too many monks and not enough meat. It was precisely because of this that when Lu Chen wrote the script, he made a lot of changes to the original plot framework, adding more characters, strengthening the plot, and correcting the existing bugs. Of course, the idea of his new drama still came from the dream world, but it would never be a copy. In this way, in addition to producing a higher quality than the original, there would also be more room for operation. On the second day after Lu Chen announced the news, 2 acquaintances of Beijing TV station came to him. These 2 people, Lu Chen, also had to personally come out to receive them, Qin Qi and Guruwei. Qin Qi was the deputy director of Beijing TV station, and Guruwei was the artistic director of the program department. When Lu Chen participated in Beijing Television's Singing China talent show, they took good care of Lu Chen. After meeting, Qin Qi said straightforwardly to Lu Chen, "Xiao Lu, you have to leave a share of this new drama for Beijing TV. We can't miss out on the filming, production, and premiere." As for the conditions, you can ask for anything. As long as I can agree to it, it's no problem. Beijing TV didn't want to eat alone. What they were plotting was joint production and joint premiere. Nowadays, many popular TV series or movie blockbusters are cooperated by means of joint investment, filming, and broadcasting. On the one hand, it is to share risks, and on the other hand, it is to expand their influence. Another very important reason is that it is difficult for people who like to eat alone to stand firm in the circle. Including Lu Qin. He was able to rise rapidly in the entertainment industry. In addition to his own strength, paying attention to the management of interpersonal relationships is also one of the key factors. Only by knowing how to share benefits can he be so smooth. Some people don't understand this truth and always want to keep all the profits in their own pockets. As a result, they often hit their heads and bleed, and in the end, the gains do not make up for the losses. For Lu Qin to establish a foothold in Beijing to develop his career, it is undoubtedly necessary to establish a long-term friendly cooperative relationship with Beijing TV station, so he does not exclude the participation of Beijing TV. Of course, the premise is to ensure his own core interests. Even if he's seated apart, he must exchange it for the equivalent value. Beijing TV can cooperate, and Zhejiang TV can also cooperate. The premiere rights can be distributed to several TV stations. But there are some interests that Lu Qin will not easily give up. For example, product placement. The so-called product placement is a form of advertising that has emerged with the development of movies, TV, games, etc. It refers to deliberately inserting a business's products or services in the film and television plot and games to achieve a subtle publicity effect. Because the audience has a natural resistance to advertising, the practice of integrating goods into these entertainment methods is often much better than rigid sales promotion. Nowadays, the domestic film and television industry is developing rapidly, and there are more and more product placement advertisements in TV series and movies. Some of the high-profile superstar blockbusters have signed a large number of product placement contracts before shooting, so that the production costs have been recovered in advance. When Lu Qin shot Autumn in My Heart, he was still unknown in the film and television industry. Now that he has become famous, there are more advertisers who have come to him. For example, Senki Clothing, Zhonghua Automobile, Thunderbird Watch, Longia Daily Cosmetics, etc., which he endorses, are all interested in placing their own advertisements in the new drama. Lu Xi roughly estimated that if he won all the product placement advertisements of these big brands, he could earn at least more than 20 million in advertising fees. In this way, even if the script is settled, the new drama can't be shot just because he wants to. It involves various interests, and it's not easy to straighten it out. Otherwise, it's easy to cause the outflow of rights and interests. Lu Qin irresponsibly threw all these troubles to his sister. What he is most concerned about now is not the new drama that is about to be shot, but Qin Fei, or his new album that is about to be released on the market. Chapter 337. How much wine did you drink today? Qin Fei blocked Lu Qin out of the door and said coquettishly, I told you to drink less, but you always come back smelly. If you do this again, you will not be allowed to enter this house again in the future. Lu Qin had a helpless look on his face and explained, I don't want to, but I really can't push it away. Since he announced the news of shooting a new TV series on the Waves blog, people from all walks of life have come to seek cooperation. Some of them can be directly rejected, and some of them can't be erased. So in the past few days, there have been continuous banquets. In the evening, it was Zhang Qian and Zhang De, the bosses of Qian Brothers Pictures. When filming Autumn in My Heart, Zhang De personally sat in Jinling Film and Television City and did his best to solve the problems of the crew. He absolutely contributed to the smooth shooting of this TV series. Although Qian Pictures made a lot of money from Autumn in My Heart, they also invested real money, and it was reasonable to share the benefits. During this period, the friendly cooperative relationship and friendship established by the two sides, of course, Lu Chen couldn't not acknowledge it. If it were someone else, in the current situation, they might have directly kicked out the weak Chin to pictures, but Lu Chen's character were doomed to not do such a ruthless thing, because he also gave Chin to pictures a share in the new TV series. Of course, the share of Chin to pictures was far less than when they produced Autumn in My Heart, but the bosses of the brothers were already very satisfied and praised Lu Chen for being a loyal friend. Looking at the partners that have been finalized for Lu Chen's new TV series, it is very clear: Beijing Television, Shandong Satellite TV, Crown Pictures, Flying Stone Records, SPG. Compared with these big crocodiles, Chin Pictures is not a small shrimp, but just a small fish. Therefore, Zhang Qian and Zhang De came together in the afternoon and blocked Lu Chen in the studio. They dragged him to dinner, accompanied by director Fang Hui, Zhang Liwei, who played Cui Xinai, and so on. Under such circumstances, Lu Chen had no choice but to drink. However, in order to protect his throat from alcohol, he drank a lot of beer. Although he reeked of alcohol, at least he was not drunk. People in Jianghu had no choice but to do what they wanted. Unless they stayed at home and became a shut-in, socializing was unavoidable. Chen Feier had been in the industry for more than 10 years, so of course she understood this principle. However, when Lu Chen came home every day smelling of alcohol, she couldn't help but feel sorry for him. She had to reprimand him a few times. Next time, just say that your stomach isn't good and you can't drink. I'll prepare a few vitamin tablets for you to bring along. If anyone asks you to drink, just take them. My dear wife is wise. Lu Chen hugged Chen Feier and said with a smile, I'll listen to you. He lowered his head and kissed her on the cheek. After being hugged and kissed by Lu Chen, Chen Feier's body became soft. She rolled her eyes at him coquettishly and said, You make it sound so nice. Lu Chen kicked the door shut. His big hand slid down from Chen Feier's willowy waist. He leaned over and suddenly picked her up. He said with an evil smile, Come on, let's take a bath together. Chen Feier's pretty face turned red. She clenched her slender fist and punched Lu Chen's chest. Who wants to take a bath with you? Her fist did not have much strength. The bath lasted for almost an hour before it ended. When Lu Chen walked out of the bathroom, he was refreshed, and Chen Feier, who was in his arms, had a soft body and a blush on her jade-like face. She was as beautiful as a lotus flower out of the water. Lu Chen carried Chen Feier to the bedroom bed. Then, he took out a stack of paper from the bedside drawer and handed it to her. This is. Chen Feier leaned against the headboard lazily and did not want to move. However, when she saw the thick stack of paper in front of her, her eyes lit up. A new script. Lu Chen smiled and said, That's right. The script for the new drama was finalized 2 days ago. Because there were many changes from the original work, Lu Chen spent a lot of effort to complete it. Many of the plots in the drama had been repeatedly revised. Based on the original work, Lu Chen spent a lot of effort on this script. He had his own ideas and the time he spent on it was far longer than Autumn in My Heart. That was why he only took it out for Chen Feier to see today. After taking the paper, Chen Feier couldn't help but straighten her back. The stack of paper in her hand was only a few 100 grams, but she was very clear about its weight. The profits involved in this new drama were as high as tens of millions or even hundreds of millions. Take your time to read, Lu Chen said while putting on his clothes, Please give me more valuable advice. Chen Feier didn't have time to read the script. She raised her head and asked in surprise, Are you still going out? Lu Chen smiled and said, No, but I want to meet my fans in the online live broadcast room. Chen Feier suddenly understood. During this period of time, Lu Chen put aside all other work for her new album and sacrificed a lot. Her eyes overflowed with tenderness. Then go. Lu Chen leaned down and kissed her and said, I'll be right outside. Okay. After Lu Chen left, Chen Fei's attention returned to the manuscript in her hand. Her eyes fell on the first page. Four striking black characters first came into view. Full House of Romance. Han Jian was a web writer. Since her parents passed away, she lived in a house called Full House. This was the last inheritance left to her by her parents. As a not very successful writer, Han Jian also did some miscellaneous work to make a living. In order to keep the ownership of this house, she had been living a frugal life. However, no one expected that Ji Yan's best friend, Shi Jin, and her boyfriend used despicable means to trick Ji Yan into signing the power of attorney for the transfer of the house, and tricked her into traveling abroad. Then they secretly sold Full House and disappeared without a trace. Ji Yan met the big star Li Youngjae on the plane and vomited all over him, leaving a deep impression on each other. After returning home from the trip, Ji Yan found that the house was empty. Only then did she realize that she had been deceived by the person she trusted the most. She had nothing left. At this time, the big star Li Youngjae she met on the plane suddenly dragged his moving luggage and broke into the house. He said that Full House had been bought by him, but seeing that Jian was homeless and pitiful, he had to let Jian stay and hire her to be his nanny. What an interesting story. Chen Fei was fascinated by it and completely forgot the passage of time. While Chen Fei was reading the script, Lu Chen had already logged into the live broadcast room of Whale TV. He was now the star spokesperson of Whale TV, and also the #1 star anchor. At present, the number of fans following him had exceeded 5 million. Although this data was not very real and the platform could not rule out the possibility of fake data, there was no doubt that his popularity in Whale TV was strong. Although the number of times he personally live broadcast was very few, he could attract countless fans to watch and interact with each time. Tonight, Lu Chen's live broadcast was not announced in advance. However, in just a few minutes after he started the live broadcast, the number of fans had already exceeded 100,000 and was growing at an alarming rate. Once a top star anchor like Lu Chen started the live broadcast, the platform would immediately send a message to notify the fans who followed him. The latter only needed to click the link to enter the live broadcast room through the computer and wireless terminal. It was very convenient and simple. Therefore, more and more fans appeared in the live broadcast room after receiving the news. Damn, what day is it today? I hit the jackpot. It's actually Big Lu Chen's live broadcast personally. Hey, the background is very strange. Is it Lu Chen's new home? It looks very good. I'm really moved. I thought I would never see Big Lu Chen again in Whale TV. Crying, Brother Chen is crying. Stop quarreling. Let Big Lu Chen sing. Brother Lu Chen, when are you going to shoot a new movie? Wah yeah yeah, countless exclamations and greetings filled the screen, accompanied by raindrops of fish balls. Although Whale TV's share of reward props was nothing for the current Lu Chen, what he saw was the enthusiasm and support of the fans. Lu Chen was really moved. It was a great luck to have such a group of fans. He put his hands together and said to the microphone, "Thank you, everyone. I'm really sorry. I've been too busy with work during this time. I don't have much time to open a live broadcast to chat with you. I hope you can forgive me." Lu Chen also purchased a set of live broadcast equipment in his new home. The computer microphone and other things were placed next to the piano on the double floor, but today was the first time it came in handy. He was too busy some time ago. Except for a live broadcast at the 72H Grass Music Festival, he hadn't appeared in Whale TV so far. Today, Chen Fei's new album has been recorded and the new script has been written. He wanted to make it up to his fans. "Forgive me, we know you're making an album for Chen Fei. I know you're busy. I'm satisfied with a live broadcast once a month. Come on, Big Lu Chin. I feel sorry for Big Brother Lu Chin, you have to pay attention to your health. Don't tire yourself out. We will always support you. It doesn't matter. Anyway, I can see Brother Lu Chin on TV. I've watched Autumn in My Heart 3 times. I cry every time I watch it. I want a new TV series. 10,000 tons of copper balls. Fans are actually very easy to satisfy, especially true love fans. They know that a star artist like Lu Chin must be very busy with his daily work and it is impossible to have much time to open a live broadcast online. Lu Chin's sincere attitude also moved the fans. Because everyone understands Lu Chin, they are very happy to see him and don't ask for much. Lu Chin chatted with the fans first and answered the questions that everyone was most concerned about, such as Chen Fei's new album, the new TV series, and his own life and work situation. It was like a live online video interview. As time went by, the number of fans who poured into the live broadcast room exceeded the 1 million mark. Lu Chen's strong popularity was revealed. Chapter 338. Chatting with fans over the internet is not a work or a burden for Lu Chin, but a relaxation of the mood. At the same time, he is answering questions. He is not facing an interview with a media reporter. There is no microphone or recording pen desperately stuffed into his mouth facing the screen, and there are no cameras around him. Lu Chin can pick the questions he is willing to answer and ignore the ill-intentioned barrage. He doesn't need to deliberately choose his words and sentences, and there is no pressure. Of course, as he chatted, he inevitably had to pick up the guitar and sing a few songs. Tonight, Lu Chin was very easy to talk to. He asked his fans to pick any song they wanted. As long as it is his own work, he will sing whatever they want. It was very refreshing. Of course, the fans were very satisfied, which can be reflected from the exponential increase in the number of fish balls. The most heavyweight aircraft carrier reward alone exceeded 100, and the scene in the live broadcast room was spectacular. As he played and sang, Lu Chin felt as if he had returned to the time when he worked hard in Whale TV. He couldn't help but sigh. This time, shake and shake, this time, turn and turn. Perhaps this song, Song of Time, can best reflect Lu Chen's mood and state of mind at this moment. In less than a year, a lot of things have changed. He can't help but ask himself, is this what he wants? The answer is yes. As he sang and chatted, time flew by unconsciously. It was not until a cup of coffee was sent to the table that he came back to his senses. Lu Chin couldn't help but turn his head and find Chen Fei standing next to the computer desk. She opened her mouth and said to Lu Chin silently, "Drink it while it's hot." Previously in the bedroom, Chen Fei read the script for almost 2 hours and was absorbed in it. It was only when the commotion outside woke her up with a start. So she put on her clothes and ran to the study adjacent to the master bedroom to make a cup of coffee for Lu Chin. Lu Chin nodded and took a sip of the coffee. Well, it was delicious. And this scene was seen by millions of fans. Due to the limitation of the camera's field of view, the viewers could not see Chen Fei's full face, but they could still see the hand that he stretched over with the coffee, as well as a small part of his side profile. The live stream channel instantly burst into an uproar. "Hey, who sent the coffee to Big Lu Chin? Based on my 25 years of life experience, I'm 100% sure it's a girl, and it's definitely a beauty. Seek the truth." Big news, it's already past 10 o'clock now. A mysterious woman has appeared beside our Big Lu Chin. Hee, I guess it's Chen Fei. What do you think? I'm guessing she's Lu Chen's sister. Chen Fei. They didn't ask any questions, and they didn't want to listen to the song. Everyone's attention was attracted by the mysterious woman, who suddenly appeared next to Lu Chin. The number of bullet screens instantly reached a terrifying level. Lu Chen didn't know whether to laugh or cry, so he simply said to Chen Feier, "Say hello to everyone." The relationship between them had long been public, and it was not the first time that they had shown their affection, so there was no need to hide it. Of course, it was the first time that they appeared in the live stream together, and at home. There was a first time for everything, wasn't there? Chen Feier smiled, bent down, and waved at the camera, saying, "Hello everyone, I'm Chen Feier." Before she came out, she had thought of the possibility of being captured by the live stream camera, so she deliberately changed into a long dress. She actually felt sweet in her heart when Lu Chen asked her to say hello to the fans. Therefore, Chen Feier's smile was particularly sweet. Bang! This time, the live stream channel exploded, and the intensity was as if a million-ton nuclear bomb had just been released. It was actually Chen Feier. Everyone knew that Lu Chen and Chen Feier were in a relationship, and it was very normal for couples to live together. However, when Chen Feier revealed her real identity in such a big way, it confirmed the fact that she and Lu Chen were living together, which was very surprising. Because many couples in the entertainment industry, even if they announced their relationship, were still very scrupulous in this regard. Because it was too common for men and women to break up in the entertainment industry, it was inevitable that they would be embarrassed after living together. Therefore, even if they were already living together, they would try to avoid the public eye. Chen Feier's calmness showed that the relationship between her and Lu Chen was really good. Of course, for the vast number of fans, tonight was definitely a night of surprise. Wow, it's really Chen Feier. Sister Feier, I love you. The single dog has suffered a severe damage of 10,000 points. Goodbye everyone, there's no need to rescue him. I saw a crazy show of affection again. I really can't watch it anymore. Chen Feier, sing a song with Big Lu Chen. Yes, sing, 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 couple sing. Singing +1. Such a strong cry, of course, Chen Feier saw it. She smiled with her eyes curved, thought for a moment and said, "Since everyone wants to listen, then I will sing a song for everyone. It's a new song. Hooray! Everyone, don't quarrel, listen to the song carefully. So excited, so excited. Support the new song." The fans were boiling again, and the fish balls rewarded were like a rainstorm. Aircraft carriers sailed by majestically. In just a few minutes, the number of props Chen Feier received after her appearance actually exceeded the sum of Lu Chen's previous 2 hours. It was estimated that it would not be a problem to break the record of Whale TV. Chen Feier took the guitar from Lu Chen, drove him away from his seat, and sat down with the guitar in her arms. Although she doesn't have much experience in online live broadcasting, she will not have the slightest discomfort in front of the microphone and camera. She smiled and said, "This song is a song in my new album. I haven't sung it in public yet. It was also written for me by Mr. Lu Chen. I hope everyone likes it. Thank you. The name of this song is Across the Sea to See You." As soon as her voice fell, Chen Feier gently plucked the strings and played the prelude. Chen Feier has never been a folk singer. She rarely sings with the guitar, but this does not mean that her guitar playing level is poor. On the contrary, her fingers play very skillfully. For you, I used half a year's savings across the sea to see you. For this reunion, I even breathed when we met. I have practiced repeatedly. Words have never been able to express my feelings, expressing 1 in a million. For this regret, I thought about it at night and refused to sleep. Memories always accumulate slowly, in my heart can't be erased. For your promise I was in the most desperate time, I endured not to cry. The sound of the piano and singing, like the moonlight in the night sky, gently sprinkled in the room. It's fascinating. Note, Across the Sea to See You, lyricist/composer, Li Zongsheng. Chapter 339. This song, Across the Sea to See You, was tailor-made by Lu Chen for Chen Fei's new album. Chen Fei's new album is her transformation work, and its positioning is very clear, that is, to abandon the previous sweet song genre and fully turn to the style of love songs. For any singer, especially a famous singer, a change in style was never an easy thing to do. This was because the fans had long been accustomed to her style and positioning, and a large number of fans of the same genre had been cultivated. It was difficult for them to adapt to the sudden change. There was always a feeling of obedience, or an instinctive feeling of discomfort or even disgust, which led to a decrease in acceptance. In the history of pop music, there are many examples of transformation failures. Some singers were unable to recover because of this, some continued to persevere but were lost in the crowd, and some returned to the old road, but found that there was no way to go. Therefore, even Chen Fei was cautious about this new album. She would rather delay the ticket than have any flaws. For this reason, she did not hesitate to push off a large number of announcements, commercial performances and endorsements, and concentrated on staying in the recording studio of Flying Stone Records. As Chen Fei's man, Lu Chen is naturally duty-bound to help her complete this new album. In fact, the change from a sweet song to a love song is not very big. If Chen Fei, as the queen of sweet songs, wants to sing rock and roll or R&B, it will be a hellish difficulty. She has also had love songs before, so the fans' acceptance is still very high. The key lies in the album itself. Without a solid or even classic work, how can it be considered a success? To this end, Lu Chen wrote 6 songs for Chen Fei. Across the Sea to See You is one of them. This song has a beautiful melody and strong emotion, with a little sadness and confusion, revealing the persistent pursuit of love, which is very touching. Chen Fei has a beautiful voice like the sound of nature. Her voice line features are extremely clear. Her fans can tell at a glance that she has a distinct personal characteristic. The sweet songs she was best at were sweet and pleasing to the ear, making people feel as if they were bathing in the spring breeze. It was very comfortable and warm, as if they were drinking honey and couldn't stop. When she sang a love song, the characteristics of her voice did not change substantially, but the tone of her voice deepened and became more gentle and warm. There was also a trace of magnetism, which perfectly released the feelings contained in the work itself. Especially when the Heavenly Queen played and sang affectionately, the millions of fans in the live broadcast room were mesmerized. What a strange city. In a familiar corner. They also comforted each other, hugging and sighing no matter what the outcome would be. In the sandstorm watching you go away, I was so sad that I could not help myself. I hope to see you off 1,000 miles away. Till the end of his tether, I will depend on you for my whole life. When it came to the climax of the chorus, Chen Fei obviously increased her strength, including plucking the strings. The same tenderness had more strength and no regrets, which sublimated the emotional theme of the whole song. There are 10 songs in an album, and Chen Fei has practiced any of them over and over again. This song, Across the Sea to See You, is of course no exception. So even if it was not in a professional recording studio, nor on a gorgeous stage, she still sang like a real superstar. Lu Chen, who was leaning against the piano, stared at Chen Fei, who was concentrating on playing and singing. His black eyes flashed with light. Putting aside the intimate relationship between the two, what he saw was the gorgeous transformation of a singer. So moving. Chen Fei's singing seemed to have a magic power that could penetrate the barriers of space and pass to the ears of all the fans who were listening to her singing, into their hearts. More and more viewers poured into Lu Chen's live broadcast room, and soon broke through the 2 million mark. Among them, there were many super administrators of Whale TV. They also came to listen to the song. In fact, when Lu Chen suddenly started a live broadcast in the evening, Whale TV, immediately knew about it. The administrator quickly put a wave of advertisements on the homepage, attracting the attention of a large number of passers-by. The number of fans watching Lu Chen's live broadcast online was about 1.5 million. After Chen Fei appeared, the number skyrocketed in just a few minutes. Many fans who got the news came to watch the fun, and the server was almost overcrowded. Currently, Whale TV has had a lot of live broadcasts of celebrity artists, but it was the first time that a celebrity couple played a live broadcast at the same time. Not to mention that Lu Chen and Chen Fei were the hottest couple in the entertainment industry at present. News on the internet was transmitted at the speed of light. Blogs, Tiba, forums, QQ groups. 1 spread 10 spread 100. Countless people who had never played Whale TV before followed the link and clicked in. However, in the case of so many online viewers, Lu Chen's live broadcast room was very clean. Everyone consciously followed the watching etiquette, and there were not many barrage that interfered with their line of sight. There were also some people who were too excited, or deliberately messed up, and were kicked on the spot by the super administrator. Chen Fei dared to make trouble during a live broadcast. There's no discussion about banning you. This live broadcast of a celebrity couple without prior arrangements was simply a godsend for Whale TV. Usually, a lot of money might not be able to bring about the effect, and the officials would never allow anyone to destroy it. Unfortunately, Chen Fei was just playing on a whim and didn't think about playing for long. After singing, she smiled sweetly at the microphone and said, "I came across the sea to see you. I hope everyone will like it. Also, my new album will be released next week, and I hope everyone will support me at that time." The heavenly queen of the music industry playfully cupped her fists and saluted, and then returned the guitar to Lu Chen. The fans in the live broadcast room exploded again. Sister Fei, don't go, sing one more song for us. It's so good, can't you sing one more song? Stay, I beg you to stay. I'll buy all your albums, I just want to sing one more song, crying, 555 I want to hear it one more time. Sing one more song +1. All kinds of begging and whining, just to let Chen Fei continue to sing, and more fans use practical actions to keep her stay. Rewards. Fish balls and whatnot were already too weak, it was simply child's play. The local tycoons directly boarded the aircraft carriers. On the screen, one after another, the densely packed aircraft carriers covered the field of vision, and the number was terrifying. Among the many anchors in Whale TV, many of them had not been able to earn 1 or 2 aircraft carriers in a live broadcast for a year or two, but Chen Fei just showed her face and sang a song, and easily earned hundreds of aircraft carriers. In fact, the share earned from these rewards could make many well-known anchors faint with excitement, but Chen Fei did not feel anything special. She only had a little understanding of online live broadcast, and had not yet realized the horror of rewards. But she could still clearly feel the enthusiasm of the fans. Thank you very much, everyone. If you want to hear more good songs, then buy the album. Heavenly Queen Chen had seen all kinds of scenes. Although she was moved, she did not satisfy the fans' wishes, because after singing the second song, everyone would definitely ask for a third song, and then it would be endless. She cleverly gave her new album another wave of advertising, and then decisively left. The live broadcast room was suddenly filled with sorrow. Lu Chen sat back in his seat, coughed and said, "Thank you for your support, everyone. How about this, I'll sing this song again for everyone." Although the fans complained, they knew that they could not force it. Although there were still dissatisfied voices, most of them understood. In order to appease everyone's emotions, Lu Chen sang, "Crossing the Sea to See You" again. In his dream memory, this song had been covered by many famous singers in different styles, each with its own flavor and characteristics. It had become a classic that had lasted for a long time. They were both playing the piano and singing, but compared to Chen Fei's graceful and gentle singing, Lu Chen's singing was more tough and full of vicissitudes, deepening the depth of emotion and containing a bit of folk song flavor. It was equally good. For millions of fans, being able to hear two different interpretations of a brand new song was definitely a very enjoyable and interesting thing. It was a precious experience. It was not until 11:00 in the evening that Lu Chen ended the live broadcast. In the end, he sang until his throat was a little dry. Of course, his harvest was not small. His share of rewards from the props alone had reached more than 1 million. Even though Lu Chen's vision was not the same as before, and the projects he aimed for were in the millions or tens of millions, this extra income made him sigh at the enthusiasm of the fans. However, at least half of the 1 million was brought by Chen Fei. So much. Chen Fei was reading the script in the bedroom and had not slept yet. When she heard the report from Lu Chen, she could not help but feel surprised. Wasn't this money too easy to earn? She had only shown her face for less than 10 minutes, and the key point was that she earned it at home through the internet. Lu Chen lay down beside her and said with a smile, "When the money is in the account, I will transfer half to you." "Is it necessary?" Chen Fei rolled her eyes at him impatiently. Did the dignified heavenly queen need to care about this small amount of money? The relationship between the two did not need to be so clear. Lu Chen was determined not to live off a woman. He thought about it and said, "How about this? I will deposit this money into another card. In the future, when we go out to play or eat, we will use this card. What do you think?" Chen Fei's eyes lit up, and she even put the script aside. Love fund. That's a good idea. Her eyes were watery, and she passionately kissed him. Lu Chen was a strong young man in his 20s. How could he withstand such teasing? He immediately hugged her and pressed her against his body, ready to enjoy the beauty's tenderness and sweetness. Chen Fei giggled and blocked him, saying, "Wait, let me tell you about the new script first." Lu Chen was depressed. If he had known it would be like this, he would not have taken out the script. What a waste of a beautiful romantic night. Chapter 340. Lu Chen had written the script of A Full House of Romance in great detail. It could be published as a novel with a few edits. It was printed out in a thick stack. Chen Fei read it very seriously, so she could not finish it even after a few hours. However, she already knew the story in her heart. It was a romantic comedy. Chen Fei liked the script very much, especially the characters of the male and female leads. She played the role of a web novelist, which was also a very popular profession. It was interesting to think about the different sparks between her and Lu Chen, who played the role of a big star. However, there were some details that she needed to clarify. Otherwise, she would not be able to sleep well at night. At Chen Fei's level, fame and fortune were no longer the goals that she pursued. Her only wish was to improve her career and enter a wider world. The success of Autumn in My Heart allowed her to take a big step forward smoothly. This new drama was not only the icing on the cake, but it also laid the foundation for her in the film and television industry. How could she not care about it? Lu Chen said, "I'm going to make 2 versions of this new drama, the Chinese version and the Korean version. The names of the characters in the Chinese version will be changed. It will be different from the script that you're reading now. At that time, the novel and the drama will be released at the same time. In addition, we'll cooperate with SPG to add the Korean plot. We'll shoot in Seoul and Jeju Island, which will be more conducive to expanding the Korean market." 2 months was enough for Lu Chen to carefully sort out the plan for the shooting of the new drama, investors, partners, plot settings, story background, shooting location, publicity and marketing, etc., all of which he had a plan in mind. If Autumn in My Heart was a work that entered the market, then Full House of Romance was a weapon to occupy the market. It was used to reap the benefits. Autumn in My Heart was expected to bring more than 30 million to him and the studio. As for Full House of Romance, Lu Chen's target was more than 50 million. This was not something unbelievable. Product placement, domestic premiere and rebroadcast, online copyright, overseas copyright, novel adaptation, anime adaptation. The benefits of a popular IP were extremely shocking. Big investment for Full House of Romance would definitely be bigger than Autumn in My Blood. How could he not rack his brains for such a huge profit? Therefore, in the face of Chen Fei's inquiry, Lu Chen spoke with fervor and assurance without the slightest hesitation, appearing to have a card up his sleeve. There was a saying that people who were serious and hardworking were the most charming. At this moment, in Chen Fei's eyes, Lu Chen was undoubtedly a very charming man. His expression was focused, his eyes were bright, and he was full of confidence. It was this confidence that caused Chen Fei to be moved again. She mischievously hooked her foot around Lu Chen's calf, gently rubbing against it as she gradually moved upwards. Her eyes shone with a charming light. Lu Chen wasn't stupid. As he spoke, he felt that something was wrong. After discovering the truth, he flew into a rage and could no longer hold back. With a low growl, he pinned Chen Fei under his body. Suddenly, the room was filled with the light of spring. The night was long, but people who loved each other would never be lonely. Similarly, Whale TV was not lonely. The next morning, one of the top 3 live broadcasting platforms in the country published a large-format advertisement on the homepage, congratulating the star anchor for receiving more than 1 million yuan in a single live broadcast. This star anchor was, of course, Lu Chen. Last night, Lu Chen's 3-hour live broadcast earned a total of 1.37 million yuan in gifts. According to the proportion of the contract, he received more than 1 million yuan. This was the first time since the establishment of Whale TV. If they didn't advertise, they would really be struck by lightning. Limited to copyright issues, Whale TV did not dare to use Chen Fei as an advertisement. However, this kind of publicity was enough to attract the attention of many star artists and media in the circle. Many media outlets forwarded the publicity draft of Whale TV. Some online entertainment websites even attached Chen Fei's live broadcast video, giving Whale TV a large wave of free advertisements. The focus of the media was not the same. Some commented on the live broadcast with more than 1 million yuan, and introduced the current hot emerging network industry and how to attract attention. Some were concerned about the situation of Lu Chen and Chen Fei. They seriously analyzed that the two were living together. Their career was developing rapidly, and their relationship was also very stable, so they came out to show their love. Many star artists, especially those small stars and new artists, were mostly shocked by the high income of online live broadcasting. Many of them worked hard to get notices, but after a year, they didn't really get much. Seeing that Lu Chen could easily earn more than 1 million yuan by rapping and singing on the computer, how could they not be envious and jealous? As for the vast number of fans, they didn't care about the millions of yuan. What they cared about was when Lu Chen's new drama would start shooting, and when Chen Fei's new album would go on sale. Of course, there was also the high ratings of Autumn in My Heart in South Korea. On April 15th, 16th, and 17th, KGS broadcasted the 11th to 13th episodes of Autumn in My Heart. Following last week, the ratings of Autumn in My Heart broke the 20% mark. This Chinese drama made great strides on the South Korean TV screen, successfully creating a new record of 30% plus, reaching 31.5%. This rating was already the highest record of any imported Chinese drama in South Korea, and it was infinitely close to MBC's Queen's Power, whose latest episode's rating was 33.29%. The difference between the two was only more than 2%. Such a situation caused an uproar in the South Korean film and television industry, because people with discerning eyes could see that after nearly 30 episodes of Queen's Power, the potential for increase in ratings was basically exhausted. It was already commendable to maintain around 30%, and it was unlikely to continue to climb. In contrast, the increase in ratings of Autumn in My Heart was simply terrible, as if there was no end in sight. If this was a South Korean drama, everyone would be either envious or cheering, but this was a Chinese drama. For a time, the media cried wolf, thinking that the Korean wave, which had once made the people proud, was in danger of being counterattacked, and the domestic market was about to be invaded by imported dramas, so they had to be vigilant. These South Korean media must have exaggerated the facts, and were suspected of playing to the gallery. The success of Autumn in My Heart was just an example, but from the side, they could see a lot of interesting things. That was, the structure of the market was changing. Lu Chen was undoubtedly one of the key figures who stirred up the storm. On April 16, Chen Feier's new album launched an online crowdfunding campaign on the crowdfunding website. Chapter 341. On April 16, Chen Feier's new album began online crowdfunding, and was released on QQ Music on the same night. This Woman Flower album was Chen Feier's transformational work. It has been delayed for half a year, and has already attracted wide attention inside and outside the circle. Coupled with the early publicity and marketing, it showed a rainbow momentum as soon as it was released. QQ Music was officially released at 7:30, and by 9:30, the sales had exceeded 100,000 copies. Shocking the industry. Nowadays, domestic pop music and pop singers have long passed the era of relying on selling albums to support their families. The miracle of a record selling millions or even tens of millions only exists in memories. The great development of the entertainment industry and the rampant online piracy have made singers no longer rely on record sales. Commercial and advertising endorsements are the king of making money. So, nowadays, even if it was a well-known singer, with the simultaneous release of online digital records and physical CD records, it would be considered a success if the combined sales could reach 200,000 to 300,000. The achievement of a platinum record is worth holding a celebration party. Nowadays, it is very common for albums to be released online. Generally speaking, the sales in the first 3 days, that is, 72 hours, often account for 1/3 or even half of the total sales, especially the sales on the first day are particularly important. There has always been a popular album sales formula in the industry, which calculates the approximate total sales based on the sales on the first day. But this announcement is obviously not suitable for the sales in 2 hours. 100,000 copies in 2 hours, this is going against the natural order. It should be known that for most singers, if the sales volume exceeds 100,000 copies within 72 hours of release, plus the number of physical records sold, and enough time is accumulated, it is not a big problem to win the achievement of platinum record. This is already the result they dream of. But Chen Feier broke through in 2 hours. Platinum record is not a problem at all. Crown record, with sales of 5 million is out of the question, but diamond record, with sales of 1 million is already expected. When did the last diamond record in the domestic pop music scene appear? Many people have forgotten. If the best-selling album last year, Lu Chen's You Who Sat Next to Me, can be counted as one, and MSB's Not Yet Lovers can also be counted as one. In particular, all 10 songs of the You Who Sat Next to Me album were on the original music chart. However, compared to Woman Flower, which had just been released, the 2 rookie albums were overshadowed. A Heavenly Queen was indeed a heavenly queen. Even if it was a transformational work, with the anticipation accumulated in the early stages, coupled with the recent explosion of popularity due to Autumn in My Heart and her own deep foundation, Chen Fei's first move had beaten all the albums of the same period into pieces. There was no one who could compete with her. If all the singers who have released albums on QQ Music, NetEase Music, pop radio stations and so on during this period are called together for a meeting, then Chen Fei can stand up proudly and say, "Everyone here is trash." When the official V of Chen Fei's studio and the fan group posted the 2-hour sales data on their blog, it immediately caused a great sensation both inside and outside the circle. Of course, the fans cheered and jumped in joy. They congratulated their idol for creating a sales miracle and wished him a successful transition in advance. All of Chen Fei's friends in the entertainment circle sent him congratulatory messages. Even many VIPs outside of the entertainment circle sent their blessings. However, the music industry was silent. Many pop music-related media and professionals fell silent. They were all studying Chen Fei's new album. Several of the 10 songs in the new album have been released in advance, such as Your Eyes, which fans are already familiar with. This song is the only duet between a man and a woman in the album. With the popularity of Autumn in My Heart, it has become popular abroad. Also, Chen Fei's recent live broadcast of Crossing the Sea to See You, although it was only an impromptu version, also became popular on the internet and was forwarded many times on blogs. Whether it was intentional or unintentional, it was part of the album's marketing publicity, from which one could also get a glimpse of the style and characteristics of the whole album. With this Woman Flower album, it was already clear that Chen Fei had shifted from sweet songs to love songs. Both leaked works were 100% love songs. Based on the quality of these two songs alone, the sales of the new album would not be low, not to mention Chen Fei's strength. The most important thing was Lu Qin. Lu Qin not only tailor-made half of the album for Chen Fei, but also personally supervised the production. With such a strong collaboration, it would be strange if Woman Flower sold poorly. Therefore, the industry had expected that the album would sell well, but they never expected it to be so popular. The number of 100,000 copies sold in 2 hours was really incredible. Whether it was out of professionalism, pure curiosity, or ulterior motives, many people in the industry carried out a careful analysis of Woman Flower at the first time. On the one hand, they wanted to determine whether the sales of 100,000 in 2 hours were exaggerated. After all, as long as they were willing to spend money, not to mention 100,000, even 1 million sales could be achieved. However, no one would be stupid enough to spend such a high price to increase the ranking. The key was the quality of the album itself. Buying could only be successful for a while, the quality was the basis for long-term hot sales. On the other hand, those entertainment agencies studied the hot albums, which was also to prepare for following the trend. If Chen Fei's new album sold out, then following the trend would definitely not be a loss. Just like the ratings of Autumn in My Heart broke the charts, and now several film and television companies were making the same type of TV series. At 10:30 p.m., the sales of Woman Flower reached 140,000 copies, and the growth momentum slowed down slightly. This was a very normal situation, because the fans bought it explosively. As time went by, the buying potential of the market would gradually be consumed, so the sales figures in the first 3 days were the most important. At the same time, comments related to the new album were released on the internet. Donghu Lu's practitioner, a well-known blogger and music critic of Waves, wrote in his long blog post, "I just listened to Miss Chen Fei's new album, Woman Flower, and I couldn't help but want to say something, because if I don't say something, I'm afraid I won't be able to sleep at night. What I want to say is that the biggest surprise in the pop music world this year is undoubtedly Chen Fei's new album. She completed a very successful transformation. From the beginning to the end of the album, there was no disappointment throughout the whole process, and there were continuous surprises and climaxes. In the impression of many people, including myself, Chen Feier can only sing sweet songs. She has a naturally good voice for singing sweet songs, and her works have left us countless good memories. This album let us see another Chen Feier, a beautiful, mature, and emotional Chen Feier. She redefined love songs. In my heart, my favorite is the title song, Woman Flower. Chen Feier's gentle interpretation of this work is intoxicating, and the traditional nostalgic style has a special charm. If I were to give this album a score, then I would give it a score of 9. 9 out of 10. Dong-Hu Lu's practitioner is an editor of a fashion magazine, and a part-time writer, film critic, and music critic. He has a high level of professionalism, with more than 2 million blog fans, and his articles are very popular among blog netizens. This well-known blogger has a unique view of domestic pop music, and he is also a member of the judging panel of the Asian Chinese Top Songs chart. Whether it is a film review or a music review, he can often hit the nail on the head. The most praiseworthy thing is that Dong-Hu Lu's practitioner doesn't sell his ass and integrity. He doesn't speak with money, so his reviews are very credible and valued by the industry. In this blog post, Dong-Hu Lu's practitioner is full of praise for Chen Feier's new album, Woman Flower, to the point that people doubt his integrity. Out of 10, I give it a score of 9. 9. Many people can't help but ask, is it really that good? The answer is obviously yes. At least 90% of the review articles that have sprung up in blogs, forums, and post bars are positive, attracting the attention of more and more pop music lovers. Many people were not originally Chen Feier's fans. After seeing these review articles, they couldn't help but be curious, so they went to QQ Music to buy downloads. A high-quality digital album is only 10 yuan, and the membership price is 20% off. No one can't afford it. This further pushed up the sales of Woman Flower. By 7:30 p.m. the next day, the sales in the first 24 hours exceeded the 300,000 mark. There is no doubt that this is a new record for the online sale of a domestic pop album in the past decade. In addition to the sales bonus brought about by the star effect, the quality of the work itself is the key. The total sales of this album in the industry has been raised to 1.5 million to 2 million copies. If there is no accident, Chen Feier has been booked to win this year's Best Album Award in the pop music industry, because such a result can sweep away all opponents and make people speechless. If you want to engage in shady business, you have to step on your face to the ground. But for Chen Feier, no matter how good the sales of the digital album is, the money earned is only a small amount. The real big money lies in the crowdfunding project on the online crowdfunding website. The crowdfunding project for physical album sales of Woman Flower has a total of 5 package options. The lowest hardcover CD record crowdfunding price is 28 yuan, and a full 70,000 sets have been sold, while the highest Supreme Edition set crowdfunding price is 588 yuan, and more than 3,000 sets have been ordered. This makes people have to sigh at the strong purchasing power of fans. The total amount of crowdfunding in the 24 hours since it was launched was as high as 4.5 million plus, and 150% of the pre-funding goal has been completed, and the entire crowdfunding project lasted for 10 days. Such dazzling sales results have made many entertainment record companies jealous. And many people in the industry have not ignored the existence behind the success of Chen Feier's new album. Lu Chen. Chapter 342. Since entering the new century, the domestic entertainment industry has flourished, and the market pie has become bigger and bigger. But the status of original pop music has declined. In the 1980s and 1990s, a singer with a little fame could live well by selling albums, tapes and CDs, and then attend parties or concerts. They definitely belonged to the ranks of high-income people. Some singers even relied on 1 or 2 works to make a living for 10 or 20 years. However, with the development of the market, more and more people entered the industry, and the new generation of idol stars emerged one after another. Big speed of the replacement of artists accelerated, and the industry competition tended to be white-hot. The rise of the internet led to the decline of the traditional record industry, forcing singers to find another way to live. Under the influence of Japanese and Korean idol culture, domestic artists also began to embark on the road of no return in marketing packaging. It was no longer enough to sing well. One must be handsome, beautiful, unique, and know how to promote and hype. Many singers were unwilling to sink to the bottom, and many singers changed their image to cater to the market. As a result, the power of original works was not valued. Imitation and plagiarism became the trend in the circle. The development of domestic pop music was difficult, and it became a battlefield for talent shows. Many musicians were worried about this phenomenon and cried out loudly, but their voices seemed so insignificant in the context of the entire industry. Like a stone thrown into a lake, there was only a ripple and then there was no sound. The rise of Lu Qin in the pop music world was undoubtedly like a fresh wind, making people feel the breath of spring. At the beginning, his influence was still very limited. A talent show champion could not prove or change anything. At most, it made people admire the emergence of a musical genius. And the title of a musical genius was not a rare thing. But with the release of his debut album, You Who Sat Next to Me, people in the industry suddenly discovered that with a sincere and excellent work, one could still obtain honor, status, and benefits. His success was a big inspiration for domestic original works. The simplest example is the asking price of Lu Chen's songwriting. His current offer to the public is 500,000 yuan, which directly raises the price of the top author by a lot, and in disguise, increases the treatment of the original author. Others might be scolded for doing such a thing, but Lu Chen proved his value with his strength, the value of an original writer. Whether it was In the Spring or Not Yet Lovers, he made people believe that with solid works, real stars could be created. Then there was Chen Feier's Woman Flower album. From the title song Woman Flower to Your Eyes, Crossing the Sea to See You, Hello Tomorrow, Meeting, and Sea of People, 6 works, 6 unique love songs, Lu Chen once again showed his strength, but also pushed Chen Feier to a new height. It was as if he had a pair of miraculous hands that could turn stone into gold and turn something rotten into something magical. Woman Flower was an album of love songs, but the style tended to be diverse. Listeners of different ages could find work suitable for them and find bosom friends. Such an approach was actually very bold, especially for a transformational work. It was simply a risk, but good enough works made the risk a gorgeous show-off. The second day, the third day. The sales of Chen Feier's new album, whether it was on the QQ Music platform or the online crowdfunding platform, climbed steadily. Although the growth rate continued to decline, it was a benign slowdown. Correspondingly, the album's reputation in and out of the circle continued to ferment. For people in the industry, what they saw through this album was the transformation of Chen Feier, the powerful creative strength possessed by Lu Chen, and the impact on the market pattern, and for the vast number of fans, they didn't care about this. They knew that the songs were good. There was more than one good song, and the arrangement and soundtrack were top-notch, full of sincerity. In just 3 days, the total sales of the digital version and physical CD version of the Woman Flower album, including the package, exceeded 700,000 plus, setting a new record in the domestic pop music industry in the past decade. There was no suspense in achieving diamond record. Under such circumstances, Chen Fei herself couldn't sit still. Before the album was released, she had a hunch that it would be very successful. After all, with so much effort and painstaking effort, coupled with the full support of Lu Chen, there was no reason for it to fail. But she didn't expect it to be so successful. Big underestimated the support of her fans. Therefore, Chen Feier had to give up enjoying the sweet time with Lu Chen and leave Beijing in advance to launch a promotional tour in major cities all over the country. The better the market is, the more publicity is needed, and the better the effect of publicity is. If she missed the best publicity opportunity at present, it would be twice the effort and half the result if she wanted to hype after that. And Lu Chen couldn't stay idle. His first priority was not to shoot a new play, but to move. After more than a month of construction and renovation, Lu Chen's studio in the New Era Art Center was finally ready to move in. So, on the second day after Chen Fei left Beijing, Lu Chen and Lu Shi moved to a new home together. The area of the new studio reached 1,000 square meters, which was divided from the original Yu Zhong art studio. It was divided into 2 floors, and the location was very superior. Lu Chen built a brand new recording studio in the new studio and purchased a batch of the most advanced equipment, making the total cost of moving to a new home more than 15 million yuan, which took a large part of the studio's funds. But the results of this investment were very obvious. In the future, the studio would be able to independently complete all the work such as composition, arrangement, accompaniment, recording and post-production. Except for distribution, there was no need for outsourcing. In other words, from the point of view of music production, Lu Chen's studio had full autonomy. In addition to meeting its own needs, it could also undertake external business, and its strength surpassed many small music companies. On the day of moving to the new home, many peers in the circle sent banners and flower baskets, including Beijing Television Station, Haijin Television Station, Shandong Television Station, Flying Stone Records, SPG, Crown Pictures, Chinda Brothers, Light Rain Media, as well as friends such as Tan Hong, Liao Jiao, Lin Jijie, MSN and so on. That night, Lu Chen came forward to host a banquet at the Regent Hotel in Beijing to entertain all kinds of people. Unknowingly, he already had a considerable amount of connections in the capital's social circle. And now, it was less than a year since Lu Chen officially debuted last year. Chapter 343. Do you think this dress is okay for me? In the suite of the Regent Hotel, Chen Fei stood in front of the full-length mirror, swaying her waist slightly. She was more than 1.7 meters tall. Although she didn't reach the standard of a supermodel, she was well-proportioned. She was big and thin when she should be big. It could be said that she was too fat if she was a little bit more, and too thin if she was a little bit less. Therefore, no matter what kind of clothes she wore, she always looked stylish, not to mention Chanel's long dress. Chen Fei was a loyal fan of Chanel. She was also one of the celebrities who endorsed the international brand in China. Lu Chen stood next to her and said helplessly, "You look good in anything." He couldn't understand women's obsession with clothes. It was understandable that Chen Fei needed a lot of clothes to change into because she was a celebrity. But his sister, Lu Shi, had a closet full of new clothes in the 6 months she had been in the capital. That night, Lu Chen was hosting a housewarming party for the guests at the Regent Hotel. Chen Fei had rushed back to the capital from Haijin in the evening. The clothes she wanted to wear were delivered to the hotel in the afternoon. She had even booked an extra room to change into. Because among the clothes that were delivered, there were as many as 7 sets of long dresses, and he had already tried on 4 sets. Lu Chen was impressed. "Let's go downstairs. Everyone is here. What are you panicking about?" Chen Fei rolled her eyes at him angrily. "I'm wearing beautiful clothes, isn't it to support you?" Lu Chen hugged her from behind and said with a smile, "You're already very beautiful. How can you let others live if you're even more beautiful? Let's go with this one. I think it's very suitable." Chen Fei smiled and said, "Fine. I didn't come all the way back from Haijin in vain." Lu Chen kissed her on the neck. In the impression of others, especially her fans, Chen Fei was always so beautiful and bright. She was like an otherworldly fairy, a superstar that everyone envied. Lu Chen once had a similar feeling, but since the two fell in love, he knew that behind Chen Fei Er's dazzling brilliance. What was hidden was her hard work and efforts. Just like Lu Chen has to exercise and practice martial arts every morning, Chen Fei has always insisted on bodybuilding and doing yoga, so she can keep her figure so perfect. She is even more willing to spend time and money on skin care, so she is still beautiful without any makeup. She was never careless with her work. Her schedule was full of events, commercial performances, endorsements, media interviews and so on. Even though she was so busy with her work, Chen Fei didn't neglect her relationship with Lu Qin. For example, she went to Hygiene to promote her new album this morning and came back to attend Lu Qin's studio's housewarming party in the evening. She was the female lead. To be honest, without a strong heart and perseverance, it was difficult for ordinary people to bear such a high-intensity life. Chen Fei enjoyed it and worked hard to push her career to greater heights. She didn't lack anything. The source of her hard work came from her faith. It was this dedication to faith that made her have a different kind of charm, which deeply attracted Lu Qin. Lu Qin felt something and whispered in her ear, "I love you." A simple, "I love you," made Chen Fei's pretty face blush. She turned around and leaned into Lu Chen's arms, standing on tiptoe to give him a kiss. The kiss was intoxicating, and the fire of love burned silently. It wasn't until the phone suddenly rang in the room that the two woke up. The entangled lips separated, and Chen Fei stuck out her tongue guiltily and said, "It must be to rush me." Lu Chen chuckled, let go of her, and answered the phone. It was Lu Shi who called. She asked him why the main character hadn't shown up when the banquet had already begun. Why did he leave all the guests in the banquet hall? Lu Chen didn't dare to refute and could only say yes. Chen Fei took the opportunity to tidy up her appearance and put on lipstick. She smiled and took Lu Chen's arm. "Let's go down." They took the elevator down to the banquet hall. Just as the two of them walked to the door, a guy in a short vest suddenly jumped out from the emergency staircase next to them. He held an SLR camera and took several photos of the two of them. "Gotcha, gotcha." Both of them were shocked. Lu Qin instinctively protected Chen Fei behind him. Finding out that the other party was a paparazzi, Lu Qin was speechless. He didn't know how long this guy had been waiting here without being discovered by the hotel's security staff. Lu Qin's studio didn't invite any media reporters for the moving house during the day and the housewarming banquet at night, because Lu Qin didn't need or disdain to use this kind of small news to hype up. But there were still reporters who came uninvited. "What are you doing?" However, there was a security guard at the door of the banquet hall. Seeing this scene, he was furious and immediately rushed up to teach the paparazzi a lesson. Lu Qin quickly stopped the security guard and said, "It's okay. Forget it." If the security guard really beat the paparazzi, maybe there would be negative news about him in the entertainment section tomorrow. Besides, it was a housewarming banquet in the evening, so there was no need to make a big deal out of it. He nodded to the paparazzi and then entered the banquet hall with Chen Fei. All the guests had arrived. Because there were a lot of guests invited, and most of them were people in the circle, the banquet tonight was in the form of a Western-style buffet, which was casual and convenient for communication. When Lu Qin and Chen Fei appeared, everyone's eyes were focused on them. In fact, this was the first time that the two of them appeared in public as a couple after they announced their relationship. Chen Fei's pretty face was slightly red, but she still gracefully held Lu Chen's arm and greeted the guests. After some greetings, Lu Chen and Chen Fei were temporarily separated. He took a glass of red wine, then walked to the performance stage in the banquet hall and asked the hotel waiter to bring him a microphone. The guests spontaneously gathered around. After getting the microphone, Lu Chen said, "Thank you very much for attending this banquet, my friends and colleagues. Thank you for your support for Lu Chen Studio. I won't say anything else. Eat and drink well." He raised his glass and said, "Thank you." There was a soft laugh in the crowd, and everyone raised their glasses together. Cheers. It was not a very important banquet, purely a favor, so the atmosphere at the banquet was very relaxed. After Lu Chen finished speaking, he got off the stage, and the band arranged by the hotel began to play light music. Lu Chen. Several men and women came over. It was Li Mubai, Li Mushi, Chen Qian and Su Daiwan. It was Su Daiwan who greeted Lu Chen. Lu Chen was pleasantly surprised. Sister-in-law, why are you here? Lu Chen sent invitations to both Li Mubai and Li Mushi. The latter sent a big flower basket to Lu Chen's studio on behalf of Mukin crowdfunding. He originally thought that only Li Mubai would come in the evening. Nowadays, Mukin crowdfunding is not what it used to be. Relying on the Li family's powerful network resources and a new fundraising model, the scale of the website has been expanding. Every day, there are many new projects online for crowdfunding, which has already made profits in advance. The valuation of the online crowdfunding has increased tenfold than before, and overseas companies and international versions have been put into operation. Li Mushi is ambitiously preparing to seek listing on the growth enterprise market next year, and the rapid development has made the industry look at her. Li Mushi monopolizes the power of the company, plus the opening of a branch in the United States, so she often flies back and forth across the Pacific Ocean. Lu Chen was really surprised to see her here tonight. Congratulations on your studio moving to a new house. Su Daiwan said with a smile, business is booming. Lu Chen said with a smile, thank you. Where's Big Brother Murong? Li Mubai answered first, my big brother is in the United States. There is a Wall Street venture capital that wants to inject capital into the online crowdfunding. At first, Li Murong, representing the Li family, bought the online crowdfunding from Lu Chen. First of all, it was to give Li Mushi, who had just returned from overseas, a test of her skills, and also to find something for Li Mubai to do, so that he wouldn't be idle all day. But both Li Murong and Li Mushi underestimated the potential of this new way of raising funds, especially after obtaining creative copyright protection in China and Europe and the United States. The capital market keenly sniffed the smell of interests. After successfully completing a number of crowdfunding projects, the number of funds that came to Mukin crowdfunding to invest money suddenly increased, leading to a continuous rise in the valuation of the online crowdfunding. As a result, Li Murong couldn't stay out of it. The eldest of the Li family is now in the United States to help manage the affairs of the overseas branch of the online crowdfunding. The Li family's investment has undoubtedly made a lot of money, and as the initiator of the online crowdfunding, Lu Chen, who sold most of his shares, didn't feel that he had suffered any big loss. Although the idea of the online crowdfunding was put forward by him, without the support and management of the Li family, it would have been impossible to have its present success. The biggest possibility was that he couldn't even get a copyright protection certificate at the beginning, and his creativity was imitated and surpassed by others. As a result, in the end, he didn't get much money back after throwing it in, and his main business was delayed. Now, the higher the valuation of the online crowdfunding, the better, because Lu Chen still retains 10% of the original shares. Once it is successfully listed, he will immediately become a billionaire. What else is there to be dissatisfied with? To be a man, one must know how to be content. The most taboo thing is to be greedy and insatiable. If he is still dissatisfied with this, what benefits can he get apart from being alienated from the Li family? That would be too stupid. While speaking, Li Mushi handed over a beautifully packaged briefcase. This is our congratulatory gift to you. Congratulatory gift. Lu Chen couldn't help but be stunned, and instinctively took it. Thank you. Li Mubai winked at him, open it and have a look. Lu Chen knew that this must be a very special congratulatory gift, so he didn't stand on ceremony and opened the seal on the spot. As a result, he found a document and 2 certificates hidden in the briefcase. Chapter 344. In fact, when he received it, Lu Chen had already guessed what the Li family's gift was. He had experienced the gift-giving routine before, and it was still the same familiar feeling. The document was the approval document of the Qin Fei Charity Foundation, and the certificate was the foundation's legal person and practice certificate. With these three things, the Qin Fei Charity Foundation, jointly established by Lu Chen and Qin Fei, had a legal identity from now on. It could raise money from the public and carry out charity work in the country. This gift was not easy to come by. The domestic charity industry had experienced a period of chaos and disorder. There were many official and private charities, and there were many people who fished in troubled waters. As a result, there were a lot of scandals. It should have been a very positive charity work, but it was covered with a thick layer of dust, causing a considerable negative social impact. Some so-called charities only raised 10% of the money for charity activities. A large amount of money was unknown or was swallowed and transferred. After it was exposed, the public's trust was seriously reduced. Under such circumstances, the relevant departments of the country began to rectify the charity organizations, severely cracking down on a group of speculators who cheated on others and carried out strict control at the source. Therefore, it was very difficult to register a charity foundation now. When Lu Chen decided to set up the foundation, he did not consider the difficulty. However, he was right to ask the Li family for help, and it was only now that it was approved. There was also a very important reason. As the legal representative of the foundation, Lu Chen had a very good image in the public as a star artist. Otherwise, it would be useless for the Li family to come forward. But no matter what, Lu Chen had to accept this great favor from the Li family. After solving the predicament of his family, Lu Chen wanted to do something for society and others. He did charity not to fish for fame, but to let himself have a clear conscience. Because he was able to obtain today's achievements, status, and fame, basically from the memory of a dream. This precious and incomparably heavy wealth came so easily that it made Lu Chen feel very unreal. He did not want to only use this wealth of memory to satisfy his personal selfish desires and lie on it for the rest of his life. Instead, he wanted to use a part of it to help those in need, so that he could be worthy of God's love. Thank you. Lu Chen sincerely thanked Li Mushi and Su Daiwan. Su Daiwan smiled and said, "You're welcome. Actually, I have a presumptuous request." Lu Chen quickly said, "Go ahead, sister-in-law." Su Daiwan said, "Does your foundation still need people? I want to be a part of it and have something to do." Lu Chen smiled and said, "It's great that you can join. You can choose the position of director or secretary." Su Daiwan said, "I'll be a director. I'll donate another 2 million. Lu Chen originally wanted to decline, but after thinking about it, he still nodded. All right. He could tell that Su Daiwan really wanted to do some charity work, not spend money for the sake of a position in the foundation. Even if she didn't donate a cent and asked for a director position, would Lu Chen refuse? However, Lu Chen was still a little worried. "Sister-in-law, is Brother Murong okay?" Su Daiwan said with a smile, "He's staying in the United States by himself. It's boring for me to be alone at home. It's just the right time to do good and accumulate virtue." Lu Chen smiled and said, "Aren't you going to release an album?" "I still owe you an album." Su Daiwan is a native of Taipei, Taiwan. She was once very popular on the island. She made her debut at the age of 19 and won the championship of the Island Performing Arts Award. With her natural voice and outstanding appearance and temperament, she became a rising star. At the age of 21, Su Daiwan released her debut album, Light Snow and Early Sunshine. At the same time, she pushed her singing career to the peak and was regarded as the future heavenly queen of the singing world. However, to everyone's surprise, only 2 years after her debut, when her star path was brilliant, Su Daiwan suddenly retreated from the pop music world and disappeared from the public sight. Very few people knew that Su Daiwan married Li Murong and lived in seclusion in Beijing. If she hadn't retired, her achievements would never have been worse than Qin Fei's. When Lu Chen visited the Li family, he met Li Murong and his wife and promised to help Su Daiwan make an album. At that time, Su Daiwan was very moved, but later there was no follow-up. Lu Chen still remembers this. Of course, Su Daiwan didn't forget. She said with a smile, "I really want to, but I'm afraid that you, Li Gu, will be uncomfortable. Besides, I've been out of the singing world for so many years, and my mind has long faded, but," she pulled Qin Qian over and said, "if you intend to return the favor, give it to my sister." Qin Qian has been hiding behind the three of them without speaking. When she was pulled out by her sister to face Lu Chen, she reluctantly said, "Brother Lu Chen, hello." Lu Chen nodded with a smile, "Hello." He hasn't seen her for a while. The rebellious girl has obviously matured a lot, at least she knows how to be polite. He doesn't mind returning the favor. "What do you like, singing or acting?" Qin Qian's eyes lit up and she said, "I heard that you're going to shoot a new TV series recently. Can you give me a role?" Lu Chen replied without hesitation, "No problem." His new TV series is very popular. God knows how many people have come to him in a roundabout way to ask for a role. Several important supporting roles have already been booked, but it's not a problem to arrange for Qin Qian. Qin Qian was delighted. "Thank you." She is not a professional actor. She wants to act purely out of novelty and fun. Of course, the role that Lu Chen gives her will not be an important one. Lu Chen glanced around and happened to catch a glimpse of Qin Fei, talking to Sister Li not far away, so he reached out and greeted them. Qin Fei, and Sister Li came over. Lu Chen said with a smile, "Fei, Sister Li, let me introduce you. This is Sister Daiwan." Qin Fei, was pleasantly surprised. "Why are you here?" Su Daiwan said with a smile, "Sister Fei, long time no see." This time, it was Lu Chen's turn to be surprised. "So the two of you have known each other for a long time?" Qin Fei, said with a smile, "When I went to Taiwan to perform, I sang on the same stage with Sister Daiwan. The two of them really had a period of friendship. Naturally, it was a pleasant surprise to meet again after a long time." Lu Chen then introduced Sister Li to Su Daiwan. Sister Li promised to be the chairman of the charity foundation and help the two of them manage this business. She has long heard of Su Daiwan. The banquet was bustling and filled with guests. This lively banquet full of surprises had just begun. Chapter 345. In the New Era Art Park, Lu Chen Studio. Compared with the original place, the new studio was not only several times larger, but the layout was also far from the original office building. In order to build this new home, Lu Chen also specially commissioned a very famous design company in the capital to design and construct the decoration and construction. He paid 500,000 yuan for the design fee alone, which was considered a friendship price. As the saying goes, you get what you pay for. The new studio, which had been renovated with a huge investment, had the style and temperament of an art company. It had a simple and lively overall decoration style with exquisite details. And Lu Chen finally had his own independent office, and also had a private place to receive friends and guests. As for the original rented place, it was not empty or sublet, but became the office of the Qin Fei Charity Foundation, which was currently being renovated. Now there was a guest in Lu Chen's office. The man was in his 40s, wearing a suit and tie, and looked gentle. He was slightly thin, had a high cheekbone on his cheeks, and his eyes were small. He was probably a little nearsighted, but he didn't wear glasses, so he always squinted intentionally or unintentionally. The atmosphere in the room was a little dull. Lu Chen was concentrating on a contract document in his hand. His right index finger on the table gently tapped twice, which somewhat revealed his inner mood at the moment. This middle-aged man in his 40s was called Fong Jun. He was Fong Hui's agent and the latter's cousin. The contract in Lu Chen's hand was brought by Fong Jun. The content of the contract was mainly about the treatment of Fong Hui, as the director, in Lu Chen's new play. Autumn in My Heart was directed by Fong Hui. At that time, she signed a contract directly with Lu Chen's studio, so after the shooting was completed, the studio also paid her. Lu Chen and Fong Hui had a very pleasant cooperation. In addition, Autumn in My Heart was a big hit. Later, he and Chen Fei especially made 2 big red envelopes and sent them to her. Because the success of Autumn in My Heart was largely due to Fong Hui's work, she had a strong grasp of the plot and properly expressed the mood of the story. In layman's words, it was very beautiful. Therefore, Lu Chen intended to let Fong Hui direct the new play, Full House of Romance, which was also recognized by the cooperation. But things were not that simple. Fong Hui's agent brought Lu Chen a contract, which was a bit excessive contract. In this contract, Fong Hui's salary as a director was 20 times higher than that of Autumn in My Heart, reaching 5 million. In addition, she enjoyed many benefits, including a share of copyright. Lu Chen could still accept a salary of 5 million yuan alone. Fong Hui's salary for shooting Blue was 250,000 yuan, which was not low for her value at that time, but there was no extra share of income. Speaking of which, he felt indebted to her, so he gave her a red packet. This was the principle of doing things. Now that they were going to shoot a new drama, it was necessary to raise the director's salary. In today's film and television industry, it was very common for high-ranking directors to receive a share of the profits in addition to the fixed remuneration. The specific terms of the contract involved specific situations. It was not uncommon for top directors to make tens of millions of yuan from a blockbuster or a long TV series. It was normal for Fong Hui to ask for a share. However, Lu Chen couldn't remain calm when it came to the distribution of copyrights. He had always been very concerned about copyrights. For example, for his own works, he would register the copyrights as soon as possible. Now, when he sold his songs to others, he would still retain part of the copyrights. For TV dramas like Autumn in My Heart and Full House of Romance that would definitely be popular, the copyrights had to be firmly held in his hands, and he could not allow others to covet it. The benefits brought about by IP were the greatest and also the most lasting. Moreover, it was easy for others to take advantage of it if it was shared. Therefore, even though Lu Chen was preparing for the new drama and had many partners, and many parties were investing in it to share the profits, he had never relented to anyone when it came to the copyright. This was the golden hen that laid the eggs. Lu Chen couldn't help but feel strange. In his impression, Fong Hui was not the kind of greedy person. The salary she asked for was not outrageous and was in line with her value. However, it was a little unbelievable that she would get a share of the copyright. Lu Chen's long silence made Fong Jun a little uneasy. He moved his butt and tentatively asked, "Teacher Lu, if you have any comments or ideas about this contract, you can tell me now." Lu Chen glanced at him calmly. In the entertainment industry, it was common for star artists, including directors, to use their relatives as agents. For example, his own agent was his sister. The biggest advantage of using a relative as an agent was that he could rest assured. He usually didn't have to worry about being betrayed or backstabbed. Fong Hui accepted Lu Chen's invitation and was willing to continue to direct his new drama. It was normal for her to ask her agent to come forward and talk about the salary with him. There was no problem of losing face. But it didn't mean that there were no problems. He thought for a moment and said, "Originally, when it comes to the contract in our studio, our manager is the one who talks about it, but my sister just went out today." Lu Chen changed the subject and said, "I've read this contract. Everything else can be discussed, but I'm afraid there's no room for discussion about the copyright. And I feel that the percentage you asked for is too high." The last few words, Lu Chen said resolutely, with unshakable firmness. This was the advantage of facing an agent. Otherwise, if it was Fang Hui herself, some things would be hard to say. Fang Jun's face changed, and then he said with a smile, "This can be discussed. The copyright issue can be put aside for now, but the percentage. In fact, we can inject capital." Inject capital, that was asking for more. Lu Chen's new drama was not short of investment at all. Lu Chen suddenly understood that the other party's request for copyright was just a cover. The real purpose was to divide the profits, and his appetite was quite big. He suspected that this was Fang Jun's own idea. It was not uncommon for the agent of a star artist to take the initiative to demand an exorbitant price when negotiating a contract. Even Fang Hui might not know. Lu Chen pondered for a moment, then shook his head and pushed the contract back to Fang Jun on the table. This was the meaning of refusal. Fang Jun obviously didn't expect Lu Chen's attitude to be so tough and refuse so firmly. He thought there would be a battle of words, but Lu Chen didn't give him a chance to show his eloquence at all. This made Fang Jun a little angry out of shame. He came prepared today. Not only did he carefully prepare this contract, but he also deliberately inquired about Lu Shi's absence. He chose to talk with Lu Chen face to face, trying to open a gap from Lu Chen. Lu Chen was very young and had a good relationship with Fang Hui. In addition, he had a good reputation in the circle. Fang Jun wanted to persuade him with his own ability and fight for the best contract. However, Lu Chen was far more difficult to deal with than he had imagined. He couldn't help saying, "Teacher Lu, our Fang Hui has invited a lot of people now, and the treatment is not low." Fang Jun wasn't talking nonsense. Autumn in My Heart successfully made a group of newcomers popular, and it also promoted Fang Hui, who was only a little famous in the circle, to the position of a first-line TV director. Around the new year, many film and television companies approached Fang Hui and invited her to shoot the same type of TV series. The price was quite high. Otherwise, how could Fang Jun have the confidence to take out such a contract? Lu Chen said with a faint smile, "Mr. Fang, I am friends with Sister Fang Hui. I think she can understand when it comes to business, and I also hope that her career can get better and better." With that, Lu Chen also sighed secretly in his heart. Originally, these words should have been the most appropriate for Lu Shi to say. Most of the time, the agent played the bad guy. It was just that there were some words that Lu Chen had to say. In fact, before Fang Jun, Lu Shi had also refused several contracts on behalf of Lu Chen's studio, including Zhang Liwei and Hu Yang, two newcomers who had become popular because of the TV series, Autumn in My Heart. Both of them wanted to play roles in Lu Chen's new TV series, but their agents' requirements were very high. If Lu Chen's studio met all their requirements, the budget of the new TV series was bound to be overspent by a big amount. Zhang Liwei and Hu Yang were also very sincere, but their current net worth was far from what it was when they were shooting the TV series, Autumn in My Heart. The agent asked for first-line treatment. In addition to the pay, there were specific conditions such as clothing, food, housing and transportation when they went out to shoot. Zhang Liwei and Hu Yang might be willing to reduce the pay, but the corresponding treatment was not enough, and they would be laughed at. Moreover, the two of them now had a lot of film contracts and endorsements. Therefore, after some contact, Lu Chen still gave up these original cast members. Full of Romance was a new TV series, not a sequel to Autumn in My Heart. There were many artists who wanted to play a role, and there was a lot of room for choice. The same thing was true for Fang Hui. She was not irreplaceable. Since Lu Chen had said this, Fang Jun couldn't continue the discussion even if he wanted to. He could only put away the contract resentfully and try to save it one last time. "Teacher Lu, actually, Lu Chen waved his hand and interrupted him. You can make an appointment with our manager to talk about it. Although that was what he said, in fact, Lu Chen had already given up the idea of letting Fang Hui continue to direct. There were many directors in the circle who could shoot the same type of work, and there were also many choices. Fang Jun left very reluctantly. Lu Chen was more and more sure that this contract was drawn up by him on his own initiative and did not get Fang Hui's approval. But what could he do? Lu Chen couldn't directly call Fang Hui to complain, could he? If he really did that, he would be too immature. After thinking for a moment, Lu Chen called Sister Li. To be honest, he was also a little depressed in his heart. No wonder people said that the entertainment industry was too complicated. Many things could not be achieved just because you thought about it well. People's hearts could also change. In this circle, there were really not many people who could always stick to their original heart. Chapter 346. Lu Chen called Sister Li because he wanted to sign a few potential newcomers through Sister Li's agency. The differences in the contracts of Fang Hui, Zhang Liwei, Hu Yang, and others made him realize that if he wanted to make a name for himself in the film and television industry, he really needed a group of reliable people, a team that could fight at his beck and call. If Zhang Liwei and others signed with Lu Chen's studio, then all the problems would be solved. There was no need to talk about any contract at all, because there was already a contract. But for the current Lu Chen studio, it was not good to expand too much at once. Food had to be eaten one bite at a time, and the road had to be taken one step at a time. If the pace was too fast, it was easy to pull the egg, and that would not be good. Fortunately, the entertainment industry was now developed, and there were many ways to solve problems. The way Lu Chen thought of was to sign people together with Sister Li's agency, and the rights and interests of the contract would be shared. The latter would be responsible for the daily affairs of the agency, and the studio would deploy people at any time if needed. There were many precedents in the circle to follow, and it was very suitable for the current situation of the studio. Sister Li had been working in the entertainment agency for many years, and she had no lack of resources and experience. The cooperation with her Rainbow agency was definitely a strong alliance. The most important thing was that the relationship between the two sides was very good, and Sister Li also served as the chairman of the Chin Fei Charity Foundation. In fact, if he really wanted to poach people, with the current fame of Lu Chen and the success of Blue, it was very easy to poach people from other entertainment agencies. There were many new artists who were willing to climb the high branch. In fact, during this period of time, many people came over to recommend themselves, but Lu Chen was not very satisfied with these artists. Secondly, he had no intention of poaching other people's talent. He wanted to find out the right person himself. After understanding Lu Chen's idea, Sister Li absolutely raised her hands in agreement. That's no problem at all. We can cooperate in any way. We are all good friends. She had always been forthright and generous, and it didn't matter if she suffered a little loss for her friends. How could Lu Chen let her suffer a loss? I believe in Sister Li. Big Sister Li might seem careless, but she's actually a meticulous person. She asked with concern, Xiao Lu, is there a problem for you to suddenly call me? Lu Chen didn't hide it from her and briefly told her about Fang Hui signing the contract. After Sister Li heard this, she said, actually, it's normal for her to have such a request. It's not strange for her agent to have such thoughts. However, I can be sure that she will regret giving up on your new drama. As for the director of the TV series, I know dozens of them. I'm sure I can find you one that you'll be satisfied with. There are also newcomers. There are a few good young talents in the Chinese Opera and Beijing Film Academy. Why don't I go with you? Lu Chen couldn't help but be tempted. The Chinese Opera Academy referred to the Chinese Drama Academy, the Beijing Film Academy referred to the Beijing Film and Television Academy, and the Chinese Media Academy referred to the Chinese Media Academy. They were the three well-known film and television talent training bases in the capital area. Over the years, a large number of well-known directors and actors had emerged, and there was no lack of world-renowned international stars. Especially the Chinese Opera Academy. Every time it held an alumni meeting or school anniversary meeting, the number of stars who came to support it was comparable to that of a film festival. It had a great influence in Asia. Many film and television companies also liked to look for new talents in the Chinese Opera Academy and Beijing Film Academy. The students in the academy were all carefully selected and had systematic professional training. The most important thing was that the pay was very low. It was much more reliable to pick people from the Chinese Opera Academy and Beijing Film Academy than to poach people from others, and there was no need to quarrel. He agreed without hesitation. Sister Lee had contacts in the three major academies. She had gone to the Chinese Opera Academy to pick people more than once, so she made an appointment with Lu Qin. Ta! Lu Qin had just put down the phone when someone knocked on the door of the room. He said, "Please come in." The door was pushed open, and a girl with a gift bag stood in front of the door and greeted, "Brother Lu Qin." Lu Qin was surprised. "Xiao Chu, why are you here? Come in and sit down." This lovely girl in a white floral dress was Mu Xiaochu, a member of the popular girl group MSN. Mu Xiaochu came over, put the gift bag on the table, and said, "We were performing in another city a few days ago, so we couldn't catch up with Brother Lu Chen's housewarming. This gift is a little token of my appreciation." Lu Qin said with a smile, "Why are you so polite? Didn't you send a flower basket?" Mu Xiaochu wrinkled her nose and said, "That was arranged by the company. This is my own. It's different." Lu Qin smiled, "Thank you." Mu Xiaochu took the initiative, "I'll open it for you. I bought it in deep sea." The shop owner said it was imported from Holland. She tore open the package. It was a glass bottle boat. The glass bottle placed on the bracket was crystal clear without any flaws. The craft boat inside the bottle was very exquisite, and the details were vivid. It required a very high level of craftsmanship to make. Not to mention the value, the glass bottle boat also meant to bless smooth sailing. Mu Xiaochu obviously took a lot of thought to choose this gift. Lu Qin exclaimed, "It's beautiful." Mu Xiaochu smiled and said, "As long as you like it." Lu Qin asked about her recent situation. Speaking of which, the two hadn't seen each other for a while. Everyone was busy. After the establishment of MSN, Mu Xiaochu officially suspended her studies. She was originally studying at the Beijing Institute of Foreign Languages, but she couldn't balance her studies and career, so she finally chose her career. MSN's debut album, Not Yet Lovers, was selling well, which led to a sharp rise in the popularity of the three beautiful girls. They were too busy with the usual announcements, commercial performances, and endorsement activities. Their work schedule was arranged to the second half of this year. At present, there were more than 20 girl groups in China. Although MSN could not be compared with several veteran girl groups, the momentum of catching up was obvious. Flying Stone Records intended to cultivate MSN into one of the leading female stars. As a result, the pressure on Mu Xiaochu's work and life was great. She just returned to Beijing yesterday. Today, she finally took the time to come here to deliver the gift, and it was because of the close distance. Her mother was distressed that she had lost a few pounds. Mu Xiaochu talked a lot, and Lu Qin listened a lot. He felt like his sister was chatting with him, talking about those happy and unhappy things, as well as the words in her heart. It was very relaxing and warm. After chatting for almost an hour, it wasn't until the people in the studio asked Lu Qin to sign that Mu Xiaochu woke up. "Oh, it's over 10 o'clock. I have to go back. Brother Lu Qin, you're busy. Goodbye." She ran away as fast as a frightened rabbit. Lu Chen shook his head with a smile and moved the glass bottle placed on the table to the display shelf of the bookcase. Chapter 347. Monday, April 25th, sunny. At 7:45 in the morning, Meng Jianqing stood in front of the subway station, waiting to go to work with the surrounding office workers to start a busy new week. Beijing was very big, but there were more people. During the morning and evening rush hours, there were a lot of people commuting through the subway. The carriages were often packed like sardines. This was one of the characteristics of Beijing. Meng Jianqing had long been used to this kind of life. 7 years ago, he graduated from college and chose to stay in Beijing. He was lucky enough to find a job in a foreign company with a good salary and benefits. 3 years ago, he took out the money he had worked hard to save, and with the support of his parents, he took out a loan to buy a 2-bedroom apartment near the subway station on the 5th Ring Road. He finally settled down in Beijing. He was almost 30 years old. Meng Jianqing, or more accurately, his parents' wish, was for him to quickly marry a wife, start a family, and have children to continue the family line. Meng Jianqing also wanted to, but most of the girls in Beijing were very practical. He only had a small house with a loan. Obviously, it was not enough to find a partner who could satisfy him. In this regard, Meng Jianqing was still very open-minded. He believed that as long as the fate was right, the ideal partner would naturally appear. If the fate was not enough, there would not be a good result if he forced himself to pursue it. So during his break, Meng Jianqing often invited 3 or 5 friends to ride in the wild. In fact, he had always had a dream. It was to spend 2 years or even longer to travel the mountains and rivers of his motherland and enjoy the magnificent scenery of the north and south of the country. It would not be a waste of his time in this world. However, reality suppressed his dream and suppressed Meng Jianqing's artistic and turbulent heart. Standing in the crowded crowd, his eyes unexpectedly fell on the LCD screen hanging on the pillar next to him. This kind of 19-inch multimedia LCD screen was very common in the subway station. In addition to the content of subway safety knowledge and life knowledge, it was basically advertising. It was an important channel for the subway company to generate revenue. There were still 2 minutes before the next subway arrived. Meng Jianqing was too lazy to take out his phone. He was bored and looked at the advertisements. A shampoo commercial had just finished playing on the multimedia screen. Meng Jianqing scoffed at the model's long black hair, which was so bright that it could blind one's eyes. It was all F*King routine. No matter how they were photographed, it was as if those advertising designers had all graduated from the same school. There was no creativity or sincerity at all. Then, the screen suddenly went black, and the sound coming from the speaker went silent. The next moment, a new scene quietly appeared. Blue sky, white clouds, a vast and boundless green grassland, and a long road that led to the horizon. The music accompaniment sounded, and the voices of the people around him were transmitted into Meng Jianqing's ears. Wandering, on the road, are you going, via? Fragile and prideful, that was once me. Accompanied by the song, a white touring car appeared in the advertisement. The camera in the air followed the car closely, and the background changed from grassland to snowy mountains, Gobi Desert, coast. I've crossed mountains and oceans, and I've passed through mountains and oceans. Everything I once had was gone in the blink of an eye. I was once disappointed and lost all my direction, until I saw that ordinary was the only answer. There were lyrics at the bottom of the screen. Meng Jianqing was sure that this was the first time he had seen this obvious car commercial, and it was also the first time he had heard this song. On this bustling subway platform, he suddenly felt that somewhere in his heart, a deep emotion had been touched. He stared at the screen in a daze. His heart seemed to have followed this touring car to the ends of the world, to the desert grassland, unfettered in pursuit of the wind, and the freedom of his dreams. However, something broke out of the soil in his heart, germinating and growing. The commercial was very long, and the aerial shot of the scenery was extremely beautiful. The music and song perfectly blended together with the theme. It was not the kind of crude and rude promotion that used strong stimulation to attract attention. Instead, it was like a spring breeze, silently affecting people's senses. Meng Jianqing stared at the screen in a daze. This was not the most creative commercial he had ever seen, but it was definitely the most beautiful. Meng Jianqing was not the only one staring at this commercial. Many people waiting for the subway to arrive were also watching and listening, feeling the charm brought by the image and music. In the end, the touring car that had crossed mountains and rivers returned to the bustling city. The car stopped, and the door opened. A young man got out and stood in front of the car. He was tall and straight, and his smile was bright and charming. It complemented the brand-new touring car. Lu Chen. Meng Jianqing recognized the character in the commercial at a glance. He was also a fan of pop music. He knew that the newly rising musical talent in the music industry had not only listened to Lu Chen's songs, but also bought Lu Chen's original CD. Meng Jianqing liked Lu Chen's folk songs very much. He listened to the album, You Who Sat Next to Me, many times. No wonder he felt familiar when he heard this commercial song just now. It was indeed a unique style. The picture turned black again, and the 4 handwritten words, "The Ordinary Road," appeared on it, followed by the logo of Zhonghua Automobile and the model logo of R100, as well as the words "Grand Launch on April 23rd. This commercial was really good. Meng Jianqing's profession intersected with the advertising industry, so his appreciation of advertising works was still a little stronger than ordinary people. In his opinion, whether it was the creative concept, the shooting, or the soundtrack song, this advertisement was first class. A good commercial doesn't need to yell at the audience. The kind of commercial that can't wait to open other people's skulls and instill the advertising intention into the brain will only make people feel disgusted. A good advertisement should be silent and moisturizing. Meng Jianqing couldn't help but take out his mobile phone. However, when he wanted to inquire about Zhonghua Automobile R100 on the internet through his mobile phone, he was surprised to find that there were fewer people around him. It turned out that he missed the subway that had just arrived. Meng Jianqing couldn't help laughing, but he didn't care too much, because the next subway would arrive in 10 minutes. He could still make it in time to get to work. After entering the keyword, the browser's link advertisement immediately popped up. Vision R100 is the new model of station wagon that Zhonghua Automobile has just launched. It is currently sold in Zhonghua Automobile's 4S stores. What made Meng Jianqing's heart palpitate was that this new car, both in appearance and configuration, had a minimum price of only 120,000 yuan for the basic model. His annual salary is also more than that amount, and the R100 pays in installments, and the interest is very low. In fact, Meng Jianqing has always had the idea of buying a car. On the one hand, he has the need to commute to work, on the other hand, he likes to travel far, and it would be too convenient to have a car. In the future, it will be more convenient to take a girlfriend out to play, and he can also drive it back home during the Chinese New Year. The compartment of the station wagon is big enough to put a bicycle in the back seat. Meng Jianqing actually didn't want to admit that he was deeply moved by this advertisement and stirred up a commotion in his heart. He opened a new link page and filled in his personal information and mobile phone number to make an appointment for the test drive. At the same time, the promotional advertisement of Zhonghua Automobile Vision R100, The Ordinary Road, also appeared in the media in major cities all over the country: high-speed rail stations, subway stations, bus stations, TV screens, and print newspapers and magazines. The idea of this commercial was provided by Lu Chen, and the theme song of the commercial was also composed by him. It was signed in February and was not broadcast until now, because the shooting process took more than a month. Zhonghua Automobile invested a lot in this advertisement. Many shooting teams went to all over the country to shoot real scenes. Most of the shots were taken by high-end drones, and the various materials were shot for hundreds of hours. The final finished commercial was edited into different versions of the time. The version played on the multimedia screen at the subway and bus station was 2 minutes and 30 seconds, while the TV version was only 30 seconds and 15 seconds. Zhonghua Automobile intended to use this advertisement to open up the urban middle-class market, aiming at the young group who pursue emotional style. The same advertisement also appeared on major portals, and its theme song, The Ordinary Road, soon spread among Lu Chen's fans. Many fans didn't have any idea of buying a car, but they all liked the advertisement and the song. Because most of his energy was focused on shooting TV series, Lu Chen hasn't released a new song for a while. Recently, he only helped Chen Fei produce a new album, and he hasn't come up with any works himself. The Ordinary Road was undoubtedly a surprise from Lu Chen to his fans. Although it was an advertising song, its strong folk style, slow lyrical rhythm, and Lu Chen's excellent interpretation made the song have a different kind of charm. It was undoubtedly a work of real sincerity. On the same day, Lu Chen released a lossless sound source version of The Ordinary Road on his blog, providing fans with a free download. The downloads exceeded 100,000 in 2 hours. At the same time, Chen Fei's new album Woman Flower continued to advance in QQ Music and crowdfunding. The total sales volume of the album successfully exceeded 1 million, creating a record for the fastest sales volume of a domestic pop music album to exceed 1 million in the past decade. But Chen Fei was obviously not satisfied with this. She didn't rush to hold a celebration party, but continued to tour major cities all over the country, trying to push the sales of the album to a point where people could look up to her. In fact, her current achievements were enough to make people look up to her. Even those with prejudices had to admit that with this album, Woman Flower, Chen Fei's transformation was very successful. In the future, her name, Queen of Sweet Song, could be changed to Queen of Love Song. As the most important contributor to the sales of Chen Fei's new album, Lu Chen's name has a deeper and wider influence in the pop music world. Chapter 348. The day before the commercial for The Ordinary Road appeared on all major media outlets, at 8 p.m. on April 24, the Chinese music charts rankings for the last week of April were announced on time. 7 songs from Chen Fei's new album were on the list at the same time, including Woman Flower, Your Eyes, Crossing the Sea to See You, Hello Tomorrow, Meeting, and Sea of People, written by Lu Chen. Among them, the album's title song, Woman Flower, directly reached the top of the chart, and another well-received song, Crossing the Sea to See You, ranked 3rd. The Woman Flower album sold millions of copies in just over a week. It was very normal for the works in the album to be on the original music chart, but the title song had just come out, and it still caused a lot of shock in the industry. It could be foreseen that it was only a matter of time before all 10 songs of her album appeared on the original music chart. In addition to the title song, the rankings of the other works still had room for further improvement. The Heavenly Queen of Love Songs was about to become the Heavenly Queen of rankings again. This forced people in the industry to re-evaluate the man behind the Heavenly Queen, Lu Chen's power. Lu Chen's first album, You Who Sat Next to Me, once had the glory of having all his works on the chart at the same time. The songs he wrote for the Bionics, MSN and others were also all on the chart, and occupying the top of the chart was a common occurrence. Now, with the addition of Chen Fei's new album, this kind of talent and strength really made people jealous. As a result, there was a voice in the circle, calling for changes to the rules of the original music chart. The core of the change was to limit the occurrence of dominating the charts. The same album could only have a maximum of 3 works on the chart at the same time. The 3 works with the best data would give other original singers enough space. In fact, this was not the first time such a call had been heard. Lu Qin and Chen Fei were not the first singers to have all their albums on the charts. In the past, there had been new albums by big names in the music industry that had achieved the same success. It was just that in recent years, the strength of domestic originals was weak. There were quite a few songs from the same album that charted on the charts, but there had never been a complete album that charted on the charts. This kind of call naturally disappeared. Lu Chen's miraculous rise in the pop music world inevitably touched the nerves of many people. He was in the limelight too much. Through the mouths of some people, these cries quickly reached Lu Chen's ears. Lu Chen smiled in response. The original music chart is an honorary chart in the pop music industry. It is a means of encouraging originality. Songs on the chart are of positive significance to improve the influence of singers and authors and increase sales results. Of course, it was a good thing that all the albums were on the charts. It was not a big deal to change the rules. The original music chart was very important, but it was not as important as people thought. His current status in the music industry did not need to be reflected through the charts. The fans' approval was the most important. Therefore, if someone wanted to change the rules, whether it was deliberately targeting him or not, he didn't care. At most, he would just write 3 songs for other people's albums in the future. As the saying goes, the rarer something is, the greater its value. It may not be appropriate to put too many good songs on an album. However, while Lu Chen's attitude was indifferent, some people were very angry. They must be jealous. Chen Fei said on the phone to Lu Chen, some people can't bear to see others do well, so they always want to make some trouble. She didn't say who it was, but there were many disputes when people were popular, especially in the entertainment industry. There were always some people who felt uncomfortable when they saw other success. Even if they couldn't directly intervene, it was good to play some tricks to disgust people. For example, the rumor released in the circle this time seemed to be directed at Chen Fei, but in fact, it was directed at Lu Chen. Chen Fei was filled with indignation. Whether you can get on the chart depends on your ability. What's the point of changing the rules? Lu Chen comforted her, don't worry about others. It's enough for us to do our own thing. There were many things in the entertainment industry that couldn't be taken seriously. Otherwise, you would only get yourself involved. Like this kind of groundless rumor, you couldn't take it seriously at all. It was best to ignore it directly. Even if the rules were really changed, what could they do? Of course, Chen Fei didn't really care about whether she got on the chart or not. She didn't care about such an honor at all. The key was that the rumors about Lu Chen made her angry. Calm down. Why don't I come to Huaqing to look for you? Currently, Chen Fei was in Huaqing, the capital of Guangdong province, to promote her new album and other endorsement activities. Come to Huaqing to look for me. Chen Fei's attention was immediately diverted. Really? Hee, aren't you busy? Although she knew that Lu Chen was trying to make her happy, she was still very happy. Busy? Lu Chen said in distress, the new drama is about to start shooting, and I haven't gathered enough people here yet. The situation of filming Full House of Romance this time was much more complicated than when filming Autumn in My Heart. There were more people involved, and there were more coordination problems. Especially since they had to shoot in South Korea, a lot of work had to be prepared in advance. Otherwise, it could easily bring about adverse effects. Chen Fei said coquettishly, can't you just say that you have to come and accompany me no matter how busy you are? Lu Chen slapped himself in the face. Chen Fei snorted twice and asked again, I heard that you don't plan to cooperate with Sister Fang Hui anymore. Lu Chen sighed, I was just about to tell you about this. Chen Fei had a good relationship with Fang Hui. This time, because of the contract, they had a disagreement, so Lu Chen didn't tell Chen Fei, for the time being, so that she wouldn't be distracted. Chen Fei, probably heard something, so she asked. He told Chen Fei the whole story. After listening, Chen Fei said, Sister Fang shouldn't be that kind of greedy person. Is it her agent? Lu Chen said, I don't know. Although he deduced that this matter was most likely caused by Fang Hui's agent, he didn't directly call Fang Hui to ask the truth. It was not appropriate, and it was not appropriate for him to ask Lu Shi. Because if Fang Hui really had her own ideas and asked her about it, they wouldn't even be friends. Lu Chen was a nostalgic person, so he didn't want to go to this point. Chen Fei, understood. I understand. Then I'll call Sister Fang Hui. It was not easy for Lu Chen to make this phone call, but it was not a problem for Chen Fei. Therefore, Lu Chen thought about it and did not dissuade him. No matter what the truth was, there had to be an end. As a result, he called Chen Fei, at noon, and Fang Hui came to the studio in the afternoon. When she saw Lu Chen, the first thing she said was, Lu Chen, I fired my agent. Chapter 349. Fang Hui had obviously just arrived in a hurry. When she ran to Lu Chen's office, her face was red and her forehead was covered with fine sweat. There was a trace of shame in her anxious expression. Lu Chen, I fired my agent. Lu Chen was shocked. He quickly got up and said, Sister Fang Hui, don't worry. Sit down and talk about it slowly. Fang Hui also realized that she was wrong. She nodded and sat down on the sofa. Lu Chen made her a cup of tea. Fang Hui was not too polite. She picked up the teacup and took a sip. Her mood calmed down a lot. She was really angry with her cousin. After the new year, Fang Hui had been shooting a 10-episode indoor short play. This was a job she had taken on last year. Although things were different now, she had no intention of breaking the contract. In this industry, credibility was very important. No one would like to work with a person who went back on his word. However, the investors were very reasonable. They gave her a director's salary several times higher than the original agreement. Moreover, her treatment in the crew was excellent. She was completely treated as a big shot in the circle. Including the actors, whether famous or not, they all called her Director Fang with great enthusiasm. Their attitude was absolutely respectful. No one dared to show off in front of her. Fang Hui had been a director for many years, but it was the first time that she had been treated with such respect. She knew the reason very well. Because she, Fang Hui, had shot a phenomenal TV series last year. Not only did it break the record in China, but it also created a miracle in South Korea. She became an instant hit in the circle. Since this year, many film and television companies and investors had come to her door to ask her to direct. The conditions offered by several of them made her heart palpitate. It was just that Fang Hui had work to do at the moment. The most important thing was that Lu Chen intended to continue to let her direct the new TV series. Therefore, Fang Hui politely declined other people's invitations. Unexpectedly, Chen Fei, called her today and revealed that Lu Chen and her agent were a little unhappy. Maybe he would find someone else to cooperate with in the new TV series. He asked her what was going on. Fang Hui was dumbfounded. Of course, she knew that her agent was talking to Lu Chen's studio about the contract for the new TV series. After all, it was a matter of interests. It was better for the agent to come forward. They didn't need to be embarrassed about the salary. However, because she was busy wrapping up the indoor drama these days, Fang Hui did not pay attention to this area. Anyway, Lu Chen's new drama would not be released immediately, but she never expected such a result. Fang Hui immediately called her agent, who was also her cousin, Fang Jun, over to ask about it. Under her interrogation, Fong Jun had no choice but to reveal the truth. It turned out that he had added many clauses in the new contract without authorization in order to fight for the greatest benefits for Fong Hui. Fong Jun did not expect Lu Chen's resolute refusal. He wondered if this was Lu Chen's bargaining tactic. He was ready to compete with Lu Chen in patience. In short, he could not let Lu Chen take advantage of him. In Fong Jun's opinion, even if she did not continue to cooperate with Lu Chen, Fong Hui could cooperate with others. Those investors who came to her were all willing to spend a lot of money. They were much more sincere than Lu Chen. He was also thinking for Fong Hui's sake. After Fong Hui heard this, she wanted to slap him on the face on the spot. What was short-sightedness? Just look at this cousin of hers and you'd know. He was a complete idiot. With Lu Chen's character, he would not mistreat the people who followed him. The primary reason why he asked Fong Hui to continue shooting the new TV series must be because of old friendships. After all, the cooperation between the two sides was very pleasant. But this did not mean that Lu Chen would agree to some unreasonable requests, such as copyright sharing. Fong Hui was really angry with Fong Jun. Even if it was a bargain, it was very rude to put forward such a request in the contract, and it also made her lose face. As for those investors who came to her door, although the conditions they offered were very good, they were actually using her current fame to hype up. The scripts they provided were basically imitations of Autumn in My Heart. If the screenwriter made it up well, it would be fine. To be honest, Fong Hui felt that many of the plots were terrible. Moreover, she knew that these investors usually arranged actors for roles. They liked to get a group of actors who used unspoken rules. In the production, they were often eager for quick success and profits, and in the end, the things they shot were not the same. She had a little reputation now, but it was very easy to ruin her reputation. In contrast, Lu Chen was really much more reliable. Fong Hui would rather join his new TV series with a low salary than compromise with others in order to make more money. As long as she had 2 or 3 popular TV series, her position in the circle would be very stable, and it would be easy to make money. It was a pity that Fong Jun couldn't see this. He was blinded by the interests in front of him, and he was too greedy. Fong Hui even knew that Fong Jun had a close relationship with several investors. At first, she didn't care. After all, everyone had a little selfishness. But now she couldn't tolerate it, so she decisively kicked Fong Jun out and personally came to apologize to Lu Chen. She would never forgive herself for missing this opportunity. After listening to Fong Hui's sincere explanation, Lu Chen was also a little embarrassed. In fact, he should have asked Lu Shi to sign a new contract with the other party earlier. Then things wouldn't have gotten to this point. However, it was not too late to make up for it. Since the misunderstanding had been solved, they could still continue to cooperate. Fong Hui's work attitude and ability to grasp the plot were appreciated by Lu Chen. He said, "There's no need to kick him out. I'll ask Lu Shi to renegotiate the new contract with him." It was common for agents to make their own decisions for their clients. Moreover, Fong Jun was Fong Hui's cousin. Although the conditions proposed were outrageous, they were also fighting for Fong Hui's interests. Fong Hui shook her head firmly. "It's not just this. You can ask Lu Shi to draft a contract for me." Her meaning is very clear, that is, she will agree to any conditions that Lu Chen offers. Lu Chen wouldn't deliberately cheat her, would he? Lu Chen really wouldn't do that. He said with a smile, "That won't do. We'll talk about it when you find a new agent. By the way, I have an appointment with Sister Li to go to Beijing Film Studio in the afternoon. Sister Fong Hui, you should go with us." Hearing these words, Fong Hui's heart finally fell. She said with a smile, "Are you casting for a new play? Are you going to sign a few newcomers in your studio?" It was very common for star studios to sign newcomers. With Lu Chen's talent and strength, it was too easy to make a few newcomers popular. Lu Chen shook his head and said, "I'm going to let Sister Li's company sign them. If there are good seedlings, we could train them together." Fang Hui immediately understood. Her eyes lit up and she clapped her hands. "Then I might as well sign with Sister Li's company." This was the best way. Sister Li had an outstanding reputation in the circle. Fang Hui wouldn't suffer a loss if she signed with her. Moreover, she could get closer to Lu Chen. It was killing two birds with one stone. Lu Chen was stunned, and then said with a smile, "Then you talk to Sister Li. Let's go together." He left the studio with Fang Hui and drove to Beijing Film and Television Academy to meet Sister Li. When they arrived at Beijing Film, Sister Li was already waiting at the gate of the academy with her assistant. Seeing Fang Hui, Sister Li was a little surprised. Because she had heard some rumors that Lu Chen didn't intend to cooperate with Fang Hui for his new play and was looking for another director. The rumors were obviously unreliable. But after chatting for a while and learning that Fang Hui was interested in signing with her agency, Sister Li understood. She said with a smile, "That's great. As long as Director Fang doesn't think our Rainbow Agency is small, we can discuss any conditions." The Rainbow Agency run by Sister Li was quite famous in the industry. It had signed many artists and a few directors, but they were all C-list directors. In the entertainment industry, the status of film and TV series directors had always been the highest. The A-list directors basically opened their own studios and chose to cooperate with film and television companies or TV stations. They would never settle with a company like Rainbow Agency. Fang Hui was originally a B-list director. With the TV series, Autumn in My Heart, she entered the A-list list of TV series directors. It could be said that she had a promising future. It was a great surprise for Sister Li that she was willing to cooperate with Rainbow Agency. A director like Fang Hui could be the pillar of the company. If she operated properly, it would be enough to bring Rainbow Agency to a higher level. Of course, Sister Li welcomed her with open arms. Chapter 350. The predecessor of Beijing Film and Television Academy was the Beijing Film Academy, which was established in 1946. It was the largest professional film and television academy in China and Asia. It was jointly built by the Beijing Municipal Government, the State Press and Publication Administration, and the Ministry of Education. It was known as the cradle of Chinese film talents and enjoyed a worldwide reputation. Beijing Film had a total of 11 undergraduate majors, including literature, directing, graphics, photography, recording, beauty, management, animation, and film theory and technology. It covered all industries of film and television creation. There were more than 4,000 teachers and students in the school. Over the past 60 years, countless film and television talents had come out of Beijing Film. Directors, actors, cameramen. Half of the stars in the entertainment industry would come to attend the school's anniversary. Of course, Beijing Film's management was very strict. Not just anyone could go in and visit. Even if they wanted to choose actors, they had to go through official channels. In other words, they had to have connections. Sister Li had a wide network. It was not the first time that Beijing Film had come to Beijing Film. She had acquaintances with the management of the school, so it did not take much effort to get permission. Everyone in the circle knew that the students of Beijing Film didn't have to worry about marrying, especially the performing arts department. The admission rate every year was so low that it was often a few hundred to one. It was really 1 in 100, or even 1,000. Talent was rare. There were naturally many entertainment agents and film companies eyeing Beijing Film. However, Beijing Film's threshold was also very high. Even if a small company or unit had connections, students in the acting department might not care. Of course, many people would be interested in Lu Chen's personal selection. In fact, the school also encouraged students to enter the circle early. What they learned in practical work was often better than academic theory. The person in charge of receiving Lu Chen and others was Teacher Chen of the Academic Affairs Office of Beijing Film. He was in his 30s and still very young. He recognized Lu Chen at a glance and also knew Fang Hui. Leading Lu Chen and others into the school gate, Teacher Chen asked with a smile, "Teacher Lu, are you going to choose a role for the new play? You don't lack people for your project, do you? The previous one sold so well." Teacher Chen was a local of Beijing. He was well-informed and talkative. They got familiar with each other after a few words. Lu Chen smiled and said, "Just call me Lu Chen. I don't dare to be a teacher here. It's mainly because there are a few characters that I haven't found suitable candidates for, so I came here to take a look." After he announced his plans to shoot a new drama on his blog, many entertainment agencies came to him, and many people recommended him. Apart from some of the roles that had been confirmed, there were still a few main roles that were left unfilled. The investment for this new drama had increased by several times. Lu Chen was doing it with the attitude of striving for perfection. Therefore, when it came to the choice of characters, he would not make do casually, nor would he lower his requirements for the sake of doing favors. The actors had to match the image of the characters in the story. This was the most basic requirement. Nowadays, many domestic dramas, especially IP adaptations, often had this problem. The actors did not match the characters, and the plot was randomly changed. After it was filmed, the audience would scold them half to death. Lu Chen had already thought about it. If he couldn't find a suitable one in Beijing Film, then he would go to Beijing Opera and China Media. If he couldn't find an ideal candidate, then he might as well do an audition. Teacher Chen said with a smile, "Our Beijing Film is full of talents. I promise you won't be disappointed." He took Lu Chen and the others to the small auditorium of Beijing Film. There were 2 auditoriums in Beijing Film. The large auditorium was used for meetings and cultural performances, while the small auditorium doubled as a performance classroom. A part of the performance classes of all classes in the performance department were held here. In the history of Beijing Film, many directors picked their favorite students in the small auditorium and then led the latter to embark on a dazzling career. When Lu Chen and the others came over, there were 4 or 5 male and female students performing on the stage of the small auditorium, and there were 30 or 40 people sitting in the auditorium, which could accommodate 100 or 200 people, including students and teachers. Among them, a teacher sitting in the front row was still holding a microphone in his hand. Obviously, he was giving on-site guidance. "Let's sit here." Under the guidance of Teacher Chen, Lu Chen and the others sat down together in the 3rd row on the right side of the auditorium. Teacher Chen introduced to Lu Chen, "This is a class for the 15th grade performance department." The performance department of Beijing Film usually had a class of 1 grade, and a class only recruited about 30 or 40 people. The real elites of the elites would be very popular after graduation, and their starting point was naturally higher than that of other artists. But then again, there might be a lot of great people graduating from this class, or they might all be lost in the crowd. Especially now that the competition in the entertainment industry was too fierce, it didn't mean that those who graduated from the performance department of Beijing Film would definitely become stars. In fact, there were also many graduates of the performance department of Beijing Film who changed careers. With the foundation, hard work and luck were indispensable. In this palace of art, Lu Chen, Fang Hui, and Sister Li did not dare to make noise. When they came to sit down, they were careful not to disturb others in class, but their appearance inevitably alarmed the teachers and students present. Teacher Chen waved to the instructor in front of him, who nodded and didn't care. However, many students were not so calm, because they recognized Lu Chen. Surprised, curious, happy, whispers spread in the small auditorium. Lu Chen's attention, however, was all on the stage. There were 3 men and 2 women on the stage, and they were performing a play. If you only looked at the appearance, the men were handsome and the women were beautiful. Each had its own characteristics, and there was basically nothing to be picky about. It was widely recognized that there were many handsome men and beautiful women in Beijing film. Not to mention the performance department, which had the highest quality. The average appearance of other departments was also higher than that of ordinary colleges. It was enough to make people happy. Lu Chen looked at each student carefully. The new play he was going to shoot was an urban romantic light comedy, which could also be classified as a youth idol play. Naturally, there were high requirements for the appearance of the actors. And it was not enough to have a high appearance. They must have distinctive characteristics that could leave a deep impression or arouse good feelings. Then there was acting skills. Youth idol plays had relatively low requirements for acting skills, so even the freshmen of Beijing film could be qualified as long as they were polished a little. Anyway, they were not playing the lead role. The discussion of the students and the serious gaze of Lu Chen and others obviously brought a lot of pressure to the young performers on the stage, and there were more mistakes. They undoubtedly realized that the opportunity had come, but their experience was not enough to deal with such a situation skillfully and freely, so the instructor present had to stand up and stop their performance. Several students walked off the stage with frustrated expressions. Chapter 351. If you don't love me anymore, then please let me leave quietly. That's my only wish. On the stage of the small auditorium, a young man and a woman were acting out a love story. Helplessness, bitterness, pain, and sadness were changing on their faces, which touched the audience's heartstrings. Although the performance of the two was still quite jerky, their lines were too dramatic, and their body movements were slightly stiff, but as freshmen of Beijing Film Academy, their performance was undoubtedly remarkable. Lu Chen was fascinated, and countless memories emerged in his mind. These memories came from Mo Ran. In Lu Chen's memory, Mo Ran also had such a youth, but on the stage, Mo Ran always played a supporting role, and then silently watched the girl who had a crush on him and the most handsome boy in the class pretend to be real. He didn't feel jealous, resentful, and didn't take the initiative to pursue anything. He buried his feelings deep in his heart. Among the 3 protagonists in Lu Chen's dream world, Mo Ran's sense of existence was the lowest. Compared with Su Bo and Fang Mingyi, his life was not as wonderful and rich. Most of the time, he was always immersed in loneliness, reading books alone, surfing the internet alone, acting alone. He never became a real protagonist, whether it was in movies, TV, or life. However, what Mo Ran left for Lu Chen was more than what Su Bo and Fang Mingyi had combined. Lu Chen sometimes thought that if he had to choose a teacher among the 3, he would definitely choose Mo Ran. This girl is called Fan Ning, and the boy is called Lu Haoyu. They are both outstanding students in the 14th grade performance department. Teacher Zhang, who was sitting next to him, thought that Lu Chen had taken a fancy to the 2 students, so he specially introduced them. This teacher surnamed Zhang was a very tactful person. Perhaps this was the reason why the college sent him to receive visitors. He obviously saw who the real decision-maker was. And he knew the students in the performance class like the back of his hand. He could name all the students who went up. Lu Chen came to his senses and nodded with a smile. Fan Ning and Lu Haoyu were both good, especially Fan Ning, who had bright eyes and white teeth. Her appearance and temperament were very suitable for a role in his new play. But Lu Chen would not rush to a conclusion. What if there was a more suitable one? Beijing was a place where people gathered. Beijing film, Beijing opera, and Chinese media were divided into 3 parts. There were also many film and television-related colleges and training institutions. It was very easy to find actors. After the 2 students on the stage finished their performance, the instructor sitting in the front row of the audience stood up and said, "All right, let's take a break first." We'll continue the class in 10 minutes. Lu Chen turned his head and asked Fang Hui, who was sitting on his left, Sister Fang Hui, do you have a candidate in mind? Fang Hui was much more serious than him. She had been taking notes with a notebook in her hand. Regarding Lu Chen's question, she answered without hesitation, this Fan Ning is not bad. I think she should be quite suitable to play Chen Xiaona. There's also Zhu Zhiqin. There were two important roles in the new TV series, Full House of Romance, that Lu Chen hadn't confirmed yet. This time, he came to Beijing Film Studios to pick people and sign them directly if they were suitable. Fang Hui had read the script long ago. Her advice was very professional, which was quite in line with Lu Chen's ideas. This was the advantage of working with Lu Chen before. Some directors were very stubborn in the choice of roles and did not allow others to intervene. However, Fang Hui completely respected Lu Chen's decision in this regard and trusted Lu Chen's vision. It was precisely because of this that even though he had flatly refused the contract request put forward by Fang Hui's agent at that time, Lu Chen did not completely give up the idea of working with her. He deliberately let some news out. In terms of filming, Fang Hui's desire for power as a director was not very strong. Lu Chen was still very happy to work with her. Fan Ning can be a backup first, Lu Chen said softly, these roles need you to check. The project will start next week. Fang Hui respected him, and he also respected Fang Hui's authority as a director. This was very important. If the director did not have enough authority in a crew, then he would not be able to control the situation, and it would be impossible to make a really good play. Fang Hui was very happy. Well, let's watch more, or go to China Media tomorrow. Fang Hui graduated from the directing department of China Media College. If the conditions were right, she would certainly be willing to sign a few newcomers from her alma mater. Lu Chen said with a smile, I can't do it tomorrow. I'm going out of town. Let's talk about it when I come back. Fang Hui said, it was common for a star like Lu Chen to go out to participate in commercial performances or endorsement activities, so she didn't care. Hello, Teacher Lu Chen. At this time, several girls came over. The pretty face of the one in the middle was red, and her bright eyes were full of excitement and excitement. She asked Lu Chen, can you take a picture with us? Lu Chen was stunned, and then he said with a smile, of course, no problem. This bold girl was Fan Ning, who had just performed on the stage. Both Lu Chen and Fang Hui were quite optimistic about her. Great! The girls chattered and laughed, surrounding Lu Chen. Teacher Zhang and Fang Hui smiled and made way for them to take photos with Lu Chen. The two knew that the freshmen were still very interested in star idols. If the juniors and seniors were used to the world, they would not be so popular. Click. Click. Several girls took photos with Lu Chen with their mobile phones, and then politely thanked him. These Beijing film students, who were 1 in 1,000, were all of good quality. Student Fan Ning. They were just about to leave when Lu Chen stopped the girl named Fan Ning. Fan Ning turned around in surprise. Ah. Lu Chen asked, are you interested in trying out the role in my new play? Originally, Lu Chen put her on the list of candidates, but after some contact just now, he felt that Fan Ying's character and temper were very good, generous and well-spoken, so he directly sent an invitation. Ah! Fan Ying's eyes widened in surprise. Of course, she knew that Lu Chen and others appeared here accompanied by the teachers of the college, and they were definitely not here to study. It was very common for directors and producers in the circle to come to Beijing Film Academy to select actors, but generally speaking, they would choose among the juniors and seniors, because compared with freshmen, the seniors had more acting experience, and they had enough time outside of studying. Fan Ning knew Lu Chen, listened to his songs and watched Autumn in My Heart. She was half a fan, so she asked her classmates to take a photo with him. But she never thought that Lu Qin would send her an invitation to audition. This was Lu Qin, who created and starred in Autumn in My Heart. Everyone present knew very well how popular this TV series was. His new play was bound to be a hit this year. Fanning suddenly felt as if she had been hit by a pie falling from the sky, and her whole body was dizzy. And the girls around all cast envious and even jealous eyes. Little Ying was going to be popular. The small auditorium became very quiet, and many other students of the performance class heard it. Although they knew that such things were not uncommon in Beijing film, it still felt very unreal when it happened in front of them. After being stunned for a moment, Fanning finally reacted and said hesitantly, Can I really do it? Lu Qin said with a smile, You'll know after the audition. Sister Li. He nodded to Sister Li, who understood and stood up. She handed Fanning her business card and said, Contact me tomorrow. Fanning took the business card in a daze and said subconsciously, Thank you. The next moment, she held the business card tightly, as if holding her life and happiness. Lu Qin and Sister Li looked at each other and smiled. Lu Qin said, Let's go. Sister Li and Fong Hui had no objection. They had seen enough today. If they could choose one, it would be a worthwhile trip. If necessary, they could come again tomorrow to see level 12 or 13, or go to Beijing Opera or China Media. After teacher Zhang left the small auditorium with Lu Qin and the others, several girls immediately surrounded Fanning. Little Ying, you're going to be famous. Yes, don't forget us sisters when you become famous in the future. Lu Chen's new play, I don't know what kind of theme it will be. Ying, what role do you think you will play? Female lead. Impossible, that's Chen Fei's role. I'll treat you tonight. Fanning was dizzy from their chatter and said weakly, I don't know if I can pass, but she knew very well that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for her. Chapter 352. Shanghai, Micard Culture and Arts Center. Located in the Dongpu New District, Micard was a very famous art venue in Shanghai. Its unique scallop shape and silver-white exterior was undoubtedly a beautiful scenery line on the bank of the Huangpu River. The venue was not very large, barely able to accommodate 1,500 spectators, but the facilities inside were extremely advanced. The lights, background screens, and surround sound were all the latest generation of high-tech products. And the most famous was the T-shaped Milky Way stage in the venue. The floor was inlaid with more than 1 million Swarovski crystals, and the light and shadow effect was extremely dazzling. Therefore, many big brand promotions, celebrity performances, and model shows were held in Micard, in pursuit of the live effect. Just after 7 p.m., the 1,500 seats in the Micard Center were full, and the scene was boiling. Many young men and women in the audience were holding rose-red glow sticks and fluorescent cards in their hands. The entire center of Micard turned into a rose-red sea. Tonight, Chen Fei's Shanghai fan meeting was held here. All the audience were her fans, and rose-red was Chen Fei's support color. Chen Fei. Although there was still half an hour before the official start of the fan meeting, many fans could not help but shout her name at the top of their lungs, resonating with more people. This sound wave impacted back and forth in the hall, and also reached the ears of Chen Fei and the makeup room backstage. Chen Fei had just finished the final makeup with the help of the makeup artist. She never liked heavy makeup, but even light makeup was very particular. To achieve the best effect on the camera, it often took a lot of time. Looking left and right in the mirror, Chen Fei was very satisfied. Hearing the noise from outside, she did not feel excited or proud. Instead, she sighed faintly. Today was a very special day. Today was her 29th birthday. In the morning, she talked to Lu Qin on the phone and did not mention anything. Lu Qin probably forgot and did not let her hear the happy birthday. This made Qin Fei in a bad mood today. Her relationship with Lu Qin had always put a lot of pressure on her, mainly because of their age. Although sibling relationships were common nowadays, and fans were basically giving their blessings to their relationship, there were always some rumors in the industry. There were all kinds of rumors, and there were also rumors that were not optimistic about the long-term relationship between the two. Qin Fei had confidence in Lu Qin. It was just that the two of them had broken through the final barrier of their relationship, which made her feel a little anxious. Things that were already in her hands were often not treasured too much. Therefore, Qin Fei hoped that Lu Qin would treat her better, especially today. However, she didn't want to tell Lu Qin directly that it was her birthday. Only women would understand this kind of dilemma. Qin Fei, Qin Fei, The cheers surged again, and the passionate fans seemed to be unable to wait any longer. Prepare for my appearance. Qin Fei decisively ordered her assistant, stood up, and walked toward the exit. She was experienced in performing and had held fan meetings many times. She knew that once the fans were in a mood, it was easy to get into trouble if it was too long, so she decided to appear in advance. The fan meeting was not a concert, and there was a lot of flexibility in the time. She immediately entered the state of work, dispelling the depression in her heart without a trace, and used her best state to face the fans in Shanghai. Starting from April 20th, Qin Fei left Beijing for a national tour to promote her new album. As of today, April 29th, she had visited 6 stops: Haijin, Jinling, Shaoqing, Shanghai, Huaqing, and Hangzhou. Huhai was the 7th and final stop. Shanghai had a population that exceeded that of Beijing. It was worthy of being the largest city in China, with great market potential. Qin Fei had many fans in this city, so the fan meeting naturally had to be extraordinarily grand. The fan meeting in the evening cost more than 1 million yuan. A professional performance company was hired to organize it, and the fans who came to the scene were selected through a computer. Not only were they free of charge, but there was also a lucky draw. Next, let's welcome our heroine tonight, Miss Qin Fei. As the voice of the host sounded, the music suddenly became passionate and enthusiastic, and the drumbeat seemed to beat on people's hearts. The lights in the hall were all off, and only the T-shaped stage shone with stars. A spotlight fell, and Qin Fei, dressed in a splendid outfit, appeared with a smile on her face. The atmosphere in the Mecca Center reached a climax in an instant, and the fans desperately shouted her name. Light sticks were raised high and waved left and right like surging waves in the sea. When the lights were on, Qin Fei first gave a warm hug to the host on the scene. "Thank you, Tian Tian." This host was Qin Fei's good friend in the circle, Tian Tian. Originally, she was going to help Qin Fei host the fan meeting in Hangzhou. Unfortunately, the TV station sent her to the location, so it was pushed to Shanghai. Hello everyone, hello friends in Shanghai. Letting go of Tian Tian, Qin Fei greeted the fans. "I'm glad we meet again." The cheers of the live audience almost overturned the dome in the center of Mikard. For such a scene, Qin Fei was able to control it. She first talked about her new album with the fans, talked about the ups and downs of the production process, and also told a small joke. After the fans' emotions calmed down, she began to sing officially. The fan meeting was different from the concert. She didn't need to sing many songs, but she also had to meet the expectations of the fans. The first song Qin Fei chose for herself was from her new album, Woman Flower. The name of the song was, "Hello Tomorrow." Looking at yesterday, we've gone far, waiting in the center of Fate Square, that blurry shoulder. The more we run, the smaller we become. The companions who once walked side by side, after toasting and blessing, they all separated, just that night. I've kept it deeply in my heart, when I grow up, I can only run. How afraid I am of falling in the dark. Hello tomorrow with tears in my eyes. The more beautiful it is, the more afraid I am to get it. Every time I cry, I run with a smile. While losing, I search. How small the voice of Hello Tomorrow is, but it reminds me what is courage. This song, Hello Tomorrow, was sung by Chen Feier for the fans present, and also for herself. On her 29th birthday. Note, Hello Tomorrow, lyricist, Wang Haitao / composer, Milk Coffee. Chapter 353. When I walk in the opposite direction, finding courage in the corner of the stairs, shaking my shoulders and crying, asking where I am, partners who used to walk side by side, understanding my grievances in silence. Time always lies, I have never lost those shoulders. Chen Feier held the microphone and stood on the star-studded T-shaped stage. A faint blue light shone on her body. The refracted light seemed to cover her with a thin veil of mist. She was as beautiful as a fairy who fell into the world of mortals. Under the stage, thousands of fans were fascinated by the song. The melody of the song, Hello Tomorrow, was very beautiful. The melody was gentle and slightly sentimental. It sang the confusion and hesitation encountered in the process of growing up, as well as strong courage. In Chen Feier's new album, Hello Tomorrow was the only non-love song. It could be summed up as a work of inspirational and life insight, encouraging people, especially young people, to be full of hope and yearning for life. In addition to Woman Flower, Chen Feier's favorite was this, Hello Tomorrow. This song wrote about the life she had experienced, so every time she sang it, it could touch her heart. From an ordinary singer to the present, only she knew how much hard work and effort she had put in. How many times she cried silently in a place where no one was around, how many times she clenched her teeth and worked hard, how many times she had given up at first, but in the end, she persisted. Many people said that there was no clean person in the entertainment circle. Unless one had a heaven-defying background, it was impossible to not be stained with dirt. However, Chen Feier could proudly say that she could do what others could not. Because she was brave enough, strong enough, and lucky enough. After growing up, I can only run. How scared I am, falling in the dark. Hello Tomorrow, smile with tears in your eyes. Singing this line again, Chen Feier's eyes flashed with crystal tears. No matter how many setbacks and difficulties she had experienced, she always stood on the brilliant stage. She could use her voice to make countless people fall for her. To be able to encounter this song and sing it was her greatest fortune. Every time I cry, I run with a smile. As I lose, I search for you. Tomorrow, how small my voice is, the Mecca Center, which could accommodate 1,500 spectators, was quiet. All the fans held their breaths, widened their eyes, and listened attentively to Chen Feier singing. Her voice was like the sound of nature, like a clear stream that drilled into the ears and flowed into the heart, causing people to be unknowingly intoxicated. Chen Feier's voice was one of a kind. Coupled with her more than 10 years of singing skills, listening to her live performance was absolutely wonderful. Coupled with an outstanding work, it was simply a supreme enjoyment. But it reminds me of what courage is. After the song was finished, the sound lingered in the air, and the audience was silent. Only the glow sticks were still being waved rhythmically. Chen Feier raised her head and blinked. A tear fell on her eyelashes. A charming smile appeared on her face, and she said softly, "How are you tomorrow? Give this to all my friends." At this time, the fans at the scene seemed to wake up from a dream and suddenly burst into warm applause. They really loved him to death. Chen Feier. The tsunami-like shouts rang out in the venue again, fully proving how popular Chen Feier was now. there was no one here to support her. Chen Fei reached out to wipe the tears from the corners of her eyes, and her smile became more and more brilliant and moving. She couldn't help but think that if Lu Qin was by her side at this time, sharing her joy, and sharing the enthusiastic cheers and applause of the fans, how great it would be. Especially on a special day like today. Chen Fei. Several fans sitting in front of Chen Fei, who were very close to her, were so excited that they rushed over and wanted to have a closer contact with their idol. As a result, they were quickly stopped by the security staff at the scene, and in the end, they did not succeed. Thank you everyone. Chen Fei waved at the fans to calm their emotions. The host Tian appeared at the right time, disguised as a reporter, to interview Chen Fei, and asked the questions that fans were most concerned about, such as the new album, the new play, and her boyfriend. Many of her questions were quite mischievous, and some were completely improvised, which almost made Chen Fei unable to cope with them, but the effect was excellent, and the fans liked it very much. Then Chen Fei sang 2 more songs, which brought the atmosphere of the scene to a new climax. So far, Chen Fei's new album, Woman Flower, was sold in QQ Music and crowdfunding online. Although the crowdfunding campaign has expired, the pre-sale of Xinhua Publishing House is still continuing. The total sales of the album has exceeded 1.3 million, and it is estimated that it will be no problem to reach 2 million in the end. 2 million sales, that was the achievement of double diamond record. In today's pop music world, it was definitely a dazzling achievement that could be looked up to by 99% of singers. And Chen Fei's ambition was not satisfied with double diamond. She also wanted to hit 3 diamond, 4 diamond, and even crown. So, in the last fan meeting and album promotion, she must do her best. Fans are sometimes very stupid, and sometimes very sensitive. Only by treating them sincerely can they get the greatest recognition. Since Chen Fei's debut, she dared not say that she has done the best in treating her fans, but she is also recognized as outstanding in the circle. Talking and singing, the fan meeting was soon over halfway, and it was the interactive session. The host Tian appeared again. She changed into a beautiful red dress, and the corners of the dress fluttered beautifully, which diverted a lot of attention. The former female host of Zhejiang Satellite TV stood under the spotlight with a mysterious smile on her face. She said into the microphone, "Today is April 29th, which is also a very special day. Do you know what day it is?" Before Tian finished speaking, many fans in the audience had already shouted, "Birthday to Chen Fei." Fans may not remember the birthday of their boyfriend/girlfriend, but they will definitely remember the birthday of their idol. How could anyone forget such an important day? Big fluorescent signs were immediately raised in the crowd, "Happy birthday to Fei." Fei is the English name of Chen Fei, which means elf. In the hearts of fans, she is the last elf who fell to the earth, and no one can compare to her. Chen Fei was pleasantly surprised and held the microphone to thank everyone. Thank you everyone. Yes, today is our Fei's birthday. Tian stretched out her hand to signal everyone to be quiet first, and then continued, "I know that many fans have prepared birthday gifts for her." One of the very special fans strongly requested to personally give a gift to Fei. "His background is too big, and I really have no choice but to agree." She showed a rather aggrieved expression, as if she was under great pressure. Some simple-minded fans suddenly became angry. Who the hell is so arrogant? The second generation of officials. The rich second generation. There was a commotion in the venue, and boos rang out one after another. But more fans were ready to watch a good show. This should be the fun interactive session of the fan meeting, an Easter egg. Chen Fei looked at her best friend in surprise. She didn't know in advance that there would be such a scene tonight. What medicine was Tian selling in the gourd? Of course, she certainly wouldn't sell her out. Tian sold enough gimmicks, smiled sweetly, and reached out to make an invitation gesture. "Let's welcome this fan." A beam of spotlight quickly moved from the stage to the audience, and the lens of the live camera followed closely, and the picture was displayed in real time on the background screen. Everyone's eyes, including Chin Feier's, were chasing the light. The next moment, the beam of light stopped and fell on the leftmost corner of the T-shaped stage. There was a young man sitting there. Being hit by the spotlight, he stood up calmly with a faint smile on his face. Another camera made up the shot in time and gave him a close-up. The audience was in an uproar. Lu Chen. No one didn't know the man who appeared in the camera, especially for Chin Feier's fans. Lu Chen, it was Lu Chen. He actually came to Shanghai and appeared at the scene of Chin Feier's fan meeting. What made the fans speechless was that no one had noticed before. Probably their attention was all on Chin Feier, and they didn't notice the person in the corner at all. But thinking about it carefully, it was also reasonable. As a good boyfriend, how could he not appear on Chin Feier's birthday? The background of this fan was really big. No wonder Tian had such an expression. Oh, intersection. Oh, Chin Feier also couldn't believe it, and her eyes widened. Surprise, sweetness, Lu Chen really came, and he didn't forget his birthday. In fact, she should have guessed it just now, but Tian's suspense was too good and misled her. Chin Feier couldn't help but glare at Tian. Tian pursed her lips and smiled, giving her a, look. Lu Chen contacted Tian yesterday and knew that she would come to Shanghai to host Chin Feier's fan meeting, so he specially asked her to help arrange it and give Chin Feier a big surprise. To be honest, Tian really envied her best friend. How lucky she was to have such a man. Tian couldn't help but think of the scene when Lu Chen risked his life to save her in Hangzhou. At that time, Tian forbade herself from thinking about it anymore, because tonight's protagonists were only Lu Chen and Chin Feier. It was enough for her to watch and bless them. Under the spotlight and the cheers of countless fans, Lu Chen first waved at everyone, and then quickly walked up the stairs in front of him to the stage. At this time, the lights in the audience went out, and even the starlight on the catwalk became extremely dim. As if it was a signal, the fans all turned off the power of the light sticks and fluorescent signs. The entire center of Mecca was plunged into darkness, and the sound quickly subsided. Chapter 354. Happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you. Singing sounded in the darkness. First, it was a male solo, then a chorus. Since the birth of this happy birthday song, it had been sung countless times. If the authors, Mildred and Patty, could earn 1 cent every time they sang it, the sisters would have become the richest people in the world. Every time this song was sung, it was always accompanied by warm blessings. On the T-shaped stage, Lu Chen pushed a big cake stacked into 3 layers towards Chin Feier slowly. The candles inserted in the cream swayed with orange light, reflecting his smiling face. Chin Feier stood in the center of the stage, biting her lip tightly. Her eyes were intertwined with Lu Chen's, and they were reluctant to part. At this moment, the little bit of doubt and sadness in her heart had disappeared without a trace. What was left was warmth, sweetness, joy, touching, and deep love. In her 29-year-old life, today's birthday was undoubtedly the most special. Lu Chen pushed the cake cart in front of her and said with a smile, "Miss Chin Feier, please make a wish." In the audience, all the fans were looking forward to it. Chin Feier nodded, then closed her eyes, put her hands together in front of her chest, and began to make a wish. After a while, she opened her eyes again. Lu Chen smiled and said, "You can blow out the candles." Chin Feier stretched out her hand to him, then to Tian, and said, "You guys blow it with me." Of course, Lu Chen and Tian Tian did not refuse her invitation, so the three of them held hands and blew out the candles together. Happy birthday! Cheers exploded in the center of Mecca, and all the fans lit up the glow sticks and fluorescent signs again. The lights in the venue were also lit up. At this time, the staff brought plastic knives, and Chen Feier symbolically cut the cake. Although the 3-layer cake was very big, it was not enough for the 1,500 fans present. However, the organizers of the fan meeting were prepared. A large number of staff immediately distributed the small cakes that had been prepared in advance to the audience. One for each person, no one less. After eating the cake, Tian Tian smiled and said, "It's rare that our music genius, Lu Chen, is here today. Shall we invite him to sing a song?" "All right." The fans naturally cheered loudly and clapped their hands loudly. All of them wished for the world to be in chaos. A piano was quickly wheeled into the middle of the stage, and a microphone was set up. Lu Chen came prepared. He calmly sat down in front of the piano and said into the microphone, "Today is Miss Chen Feier's birthday. This song is for you. I wish her happiness forever." As he spoke, Lu Chen gently looked at Chen Feier. "This song is called In My Voice." Chen Feier leaned against the piano, listening to him play and sing. Their gazes met, full of tenderness. This scene would torture countless single dogs to death. Lu Chen took a deep breath and gently pressed his fingers on the cold, smooth piano keys. The next moment, he played the prelude. "Without any precaution and without any scruples, you just appeared like this, in my world. Bringing me a surprise that I couldn't help myself, but you just happened to be like this, unknowingly, disappearing quietly. There was no news from my world, the rest were just memories." Words were the voice of the heart, and songs were about emotions. Lu Chen played and sang. His fingers danced on the black and white keys, passionate and affectionate. This song, In My Voice, is a work about love and gratitude. In terms of expressing love, there is a very sincere and simple confession. The lyrics of the whole song are simple and straightforward. Every sentence is an interpretation of love and a story. Love is unexpected, sweet, beautiful, unfathomable and uncontrollable, and unforgettable. When there is no precaution or worry, the appearance of love can always bring people great surprises. Even if it comes and goes, leaving only memories, it is still engraved in the heart and unforgettable. You exist deep in my mind, in my dreams, in my heart, in my song. You exist deep in my mind, in my dreams, in my heart, in my song. When it came to the climax of the chorus, Lu Chen obviously increased the strength of his playing. His singing also became more powerful, full of firmness and persistence. That was the firmness and persistence of love. One piano and one person, the piano and the voice perfectly blended together, and the sound impacted the soul. Chen Feier, who was standing next to Lu Chen, was undoubtedly the most affected. She stared at Lu Chen without blinking. The love hidden deep in her eyes turned into spring water, and her pretty face showed an intoxicated look. With her professional knowledge, of course, she could hear the brilliance and value of this song. It belonged to the kind of masterpiece that could make an unknown singer famous overnight. Among many of Lu Chen's works, it was also one of the best. But Chen Feier didn't care about its value. She only knew that this song was specially sung by Lu Chen for her. That was enough. This was the best birthday gift she had received tonight. The world is so big. Why did we meet? Is it fate? Is it God's will? These few lines were Chen Feier's favorite. It was God's will. Fate let the two meet, know each other, and fall in love. Then what else did she have to worry about? What else did she have to doubt? What else did she have to worry about? Be grateful for life and cherish the present. At this moment, Chen Feier really understood a lot. This was love. When Lu Chen's song ended, the audience burst into thunderous applause. Many fans stood up and shouted Lu Chen's name loudly. It was as if the Mecca Center had suddenly become Lu Chen's home ground, and the whole world was cheering for him. But it didn't matter at all. The fans didn't care, and neither did Chen Feier. Lu Chen also stood up, took Chen Feier's hand, and bowed to the fans at the scene to thank them. Kiss. No one knew which fan shouted first, but it immediately turned into a roar of countless people. Kiss. Chen Feier's pretty face suddenly blushed. Lu Chen smiled and generously turned around to kiss Chen Feier, cleverly responding to the fans' cheers. If they really wanted to kiss, it would be after they got home. It was not good to teach children bad things in public. At this point, Lu Chen's appearance was over, and he returned the stage to Chen Feier. The star of tonight could only be Chen Feier. Of course, Lu Chen just hid backstage. When the fan meeting was over, he still had to accompany Chen Feier to have a really beautiful birthday night. A night that only belonged to the two of them. Note, in my voice, lyricist/composer, Chu Wanting. Chapter 355. Shanghai, the Bund. It was already past 10 o'clock in the evening. The night sky was like a huge and thick black curtain, so deep that it could not be dispersed. The strong night wind blew away the dust that shrouded the city, and the twinkling stars quietly appeared. Under the night sky, a long light belt extended along the Huangpu River. The gorgeous neon lights highlighted the splendor of the Oriental Pearl Tower. The boats on the river were weaving, and the sound of steam whistles could be heard from afar. All kinds of Gothic, Roman, Baroque, and East-West architectural expositions were displayed in the night, releasing the charm of this city that never sleeps. 100 meters away from the Bund Square, Jinhui Jewelry sent off the last few customers and was ready to close. The shop assistants, who had been standing for most of the day, finally breathed a sigh of relief. They talked and laughed as they did their last work. For them, a busy day was over. However, at this time, a young couple holding hands appeared at the door. Several shop assistants couldn't help but look bitter. What they hated the most was customers who came when it was about to close. They had to delay the closing time, and everyone had to be present no matter what, and they couldn't give the customers the feeling that they were about to close. In fact, the people who came to this shop were basically tourists from other places, and they couldn't do any business. But no matter how disgusted they were, they still had to squeeze out a standard smile and say in a sweet voice, "Welcome." This was the company's rule, but no matter when or what kind of customers came, as long as the door was open, they had to be warmly welcomed, even if the other party didn't look like they had the money to buy any jewelry in the store. A jewelry shop assistant took the initiative to greet them. She bowed and asked with a smile, "Good evening, and welcome to Jinhui Jewelry. Our store has just received a new batch of goods. The styles are all designed by famous European designers, and the materials are very exquisite. Would you like to take a look?" Her words were actually very skillful. She calmly pointed out the grade of her jewelry store. If the other party was just looking at a new couple, they would most likely back off, which would save them time. But if they were powerful customers, they wouldn't feel offended. While the shop assistant was asking, she was also a little apprehensive because this couple was quite special. The man was very tall and wore a pair of sunglasses, while the woman was slender and graceful and wore a mask. It was impossible to see her true appearance. However, she felt that the two of them looked familiar, as if she had seen them somewhere before. This made the saleswoman even more careful, and her smile became even more sincere. The man smiled and said, "Then let's take a look. Are you closing soon?" The saleswoman quickly said, "No, sir and miss, please come with me. What do you want to see?" Ring, necklace, bracelet, or something else? The man said, "Since you're here, let's take a look." As he spoke, he took off his sunglasses. Ah! Suddenly, a short scream came from the side. The salesperson walking in front couldn't help but turn her head to look. Behind the nearby counter, a colleague was dumbfounded. Her face was flushed, as if she had seen a new world, and her eyes were filled with excitement. The shop assistant rolled her eyes at her, knowing that she was definitely going to be out of luck. The rules of Jinhui Jewelry were very strict. If she yelled in front of customers like this, her salary would definitely be deducted. Even the store manager was watching. However, she soon discovered that the other colleagues here were also showing similar excited expressions. The saleswoman couldn't help but turn around, and then saw the man who had taken off his sunglasses. Lu Chen. She couldn't help but exclaim softly. This tall and handsome man, wasn't he the male lead of Autumn in My Heart, Lu Chen? The saleswoman believed that she couldn't be wrong, because she had watched this TV series 3 times. Every time she watched it, she would cry. She was absolutely familiar with the male and female leads. This was 100% Lu Chen. And the woman holding his hand, who else could it be but Qin Fei? If it wasn't Qin Fei, then it would be big news. The saleswoman was also dumbfounded. She had seen many different kinds of guests, but it was really the first time that she was in such close contact with her favorite idol. She was completely at a loss. Fortunately, at this time, the manager rushed over and took over her job as the saleswoman. At the same time, the experienced manager asked the staff to close the store. On one hand, it was closing time, and on the other hand, it was to solemnly entertain the distinguished guests. The purchasing power of these two was unquestionable. Lu Chen took Qin Fei's hand and sat down in front of the jewelry counter. Tonight, he attended Qin Fei's fan meeting and gave her a big birthday surprise. But the real birthday present hadn't been given yet. Lu Chen really didn't have much experience in this area, and he didn't know what to buy for Qin Fei, because the latter didn't lack anything at all. So after thinking about it, he didn't buy it for now. After the fan meeting, he would kidnap Qin Fei and let her choose what she liked while enjoying the sweet world of the two. The two strolled around the bund for more than half an hour, and walked into this stylish jewelry store. Of course, Qin Fei didn't lack jewelry, but the birthday present that Lu Chen wanted to give her was another matter. In fact, since the latter appeared in the center of Mecca, her heart had been full of sweetness and happiness. Even her IQ and EQ had dropped a lot. Not to mention buying jewelry, even if it was just a 10 yuan spicy hot pot, she would still be satisfied. The store manager asked someone to take out the best jewelry from the safe inside. In big jewelry stores, the best quality and most expensive goods were never directly displayed on the counter. They would only be taken out when meeting specific customers. 3 velvet sandalwood jewelry boxes opened on the counter, immediately attracting Qin Fei's attention. Women's resistance to jewelry was always insufficient, even Qin Fei was the same. These diamond jewelry were undoubtedly first class, both the shape and the style were excellent. Even a layman like Lu Chen was quite moved, let alone her. Like a proud queen, Qin Fei tried on more than a dozen pieces of jewelry in one breath, including necklaces, bracelets, brooches, and earrings. She simply couldn't put them down. In the end, she left behind a pink diamond necklace and a ruby brooch. It was difficult to choose. Lu Chen smiled and said, "I'll take both." The store manager said, Yes, these 2 pieces of jewelry really match you, too perfect." She wasn't just saying good words for the sake of sales, but she really had such an idea. The naturally beautiful Qin Fei should be matched with such jewelry. It could be seen from the eyes of the other staff present. If it weren't for the store's rules, they would probably take out their mobile phones and take pictures of the scene of Chin Fei, or trying on the jewelry. Chin Fei looked around in the mirror, and finally took off the pink diamond necklace. "I'll take this brooch." The store manager sighed secretly. She felt that this necklace was the most suitable for Chin Fei, and the price of the necklace was more than 10 times that of the brooch. A big business was ruined. She could also see that Chin Fei really liked it, but she didn't want Lu Qin to spend too much money. The store manager was very envious of the relationship between the two superstars. Lu Qin smiled and said, "It's good that you like it. Then buy this brooch, I'll pay for it." He winked at the store manager. The store manager was stunned, and immediately understood. She immediately smiled and said, "Okay, please come with me. It's over here." After buying the birthday gifts, Lu Qin and Chin Fei returned to the hotel. In the room, they closed the door and couldn't help hugging each other. The fire of love was burning in their hearts, and it was almost out of control. Lu Qin resisted the love in his heart and whispered, "Close your eyes, okay?" Chin Fei obediently agreed, raised her head and closed her eyes, like a girl waiting for her first love shyly. However, she didn't wait for Lu Qin's passionate kiss, but felt a heavy object on her neck. Chin Fei couldn't help but open her eyes. She looked down and saw a necklace hanging on her neck. It was the pink diamond necklace that she had given up. Ah! Chin Fei couldn't help but exclaim, "Why did you buy it?" This pink diamond necklace was priced at more than 2 million in the jewelry store. Even with a discount, it would not be less than 2 million. Although she liked it very much, it was still a little too much as a birthday gift. Chin Fei didn't want Lu Qin to think that she was a greedy woman, so she chose the 100,000 ruby brooch. She didn't expect that Lu Qin would actually buy the necklace. No wonder he was a little sneaky when he went to pay for it. As for the store manager, he had a strange expression on his face when he saw the two of them out. "So that's why." Lu Qin kissed the tip of her nose and said with a smile, "Because you like it. As long as you like it, and I have money, it's not a problem even if I buy the whole world for you." If she heard such mushy words from someone else, Chin Fei might have goosebumps all over her body. But from Lu Qin's mouth, there was only sweetness and endless love. She couldn't help but tiptoe and took the initiative to give a kiss. She whispered in Lu Qin's ear, "I want you." How could Lu Qin bear it anymore? He immediately bent over and picked her up, rushing to the bedroom. Chin Fei hugged Lu Qin's neck and giggled, "Take a shower first." Lu Qin's eyes were spitting fire. He gritted his teeth and said, "Let's shower together later." The next moment, he hugged Chin Fei and fell on the big bed in the bedroom, pressing this beautiful woman heavily under his body, causing the latter to moan. This romantic night had just begun. Chapter 356. Lu Qin appears at Chin Fei's fan meeting and sends birthday gifts to her. The heavenly queen is moved to tears by the song, "In My Voice." Direct to the scene, witness the most romantic love story. Lu Qin goes to Shanghai to celebrate Chin Fei's birthday. Love and career double harvest, Chin Fei's smile and tears. Chin Fei. On May 1st, International Labor Day, the first day of the domestic mid-year long holiday. Big and small media entertainment sections were once again flooded by the news of Lu Qin and Chin Fei. In the current entertainment industry, Lu Qin and Chin Fei may not be the most popular stars, but in terms of which couple is the most exposed, it is really the two of them. Autumn in My Heart made them the best couple in the hearts of the people, and their status was unshakable. The romantic story that happened last night in the center of Shanghai Mecca has become a hot topic on blogs. There were many live videos that night, which made many people envious and jealous. Women envied Chen Fei for having the best boyfriend, who was tall, handsome, talented, and romantic. Men envied Lu Qin for having a real heavenly queen as a girlfriend, who was beautiful and charming. And fans once again witnessed the beautiful relationship between the two. Because of the arrival of Lu Qin, Chen Fei did not leave immediately after finishing the promotional activities in Shanghai. She spent a sweet May Day with Lu Qin and returned to Beijing on the 2nd. At this point, her nationwide publicity tour has been completed. The effect of 10 days of intensive promotion is still quite good. The pre-sale of the new album is still rising, and part of the crowd-funded commemorative record packages have begun to be sent to Xinhua bookstores all over the country, and will soon appear in the hands of fans. The industry's total sales estimate for the Woman Flower album has been changed to 2.5 million to 3 million copies, sets. Even if the huge investment in publicity is huge, it is a foregone conclusion to achieve a large profit. Chen Fei's gorgeous turnaround in her singing career was a complete success. Even the most picky people had to admit that her transition in singing style was impeccable. She was truly the new generation of queen of love songs. At the same time, good news came from South Korea. After more than a month of broadcasting, the finale of Autumn in My Heart was broadcasted on KGS. The final episode's ratings were 39.52%, just 0.48% away from breaking the 40% mark. But as a Chinese drama, such a rating was already a miracle. Most notably, the last 4 episodes of Blue had higher ratings than MBC's annual drama, The Power of the Queen. This made MBC, the second largest TV station in South Korea, very embarrassed, because Queen's Power firmly crushed Autumn in My Heart in terms of investment, celebrity lineup, and publicity, but it lost to the latter in the highest ratings. It could only save some face in the average ratings. Chinese dramas did not have much of an audience base in Korea to begin with. The rise of Autumn in My Blood and its challenge to Queen's Power might seem like a competition between 2 different dramas, but it was also a competition between 2 television stations. Of course, MBC was very unhappy, and even used public opinion to attack KGS, but this did not affect the success of Blue. Autumn in My Heart had an average rating of 26.68% in Korea, a perfect ending. When the news spread to China, the industry was shocked to the point of numbness, but the fans were jubilant. Because according to the original promise made by Lu Qin on his blog, 2,668 fans would travel to Korea for free, and it would be a 2-person trip. Someone did the math for Lu Qin. According to the price of an ordinary group purchase, he would have to pay at least 13 million. This kind of spending was extremely rare in the entertainment industry. Although it was easy for a celebrity to invest tens of millions of yuan in publicity, it was really unique to take out real money to return tens of millions of yuan to the fans. So, some people in the circle said that Lu Qin was pretending to be fat. It was ridiculous that he had to pay a large sum of money for the copyright to be sold to the Koreans. But the people who said sour words didn't see that after Lu Qin and Chen Fei made the promise of rewards, the fans of both of them increased greatly, especially the fans of Lu Qin's fan group, Lu Jiajun, increased by millions, and the potential benefit effect completely exceeded the tens of millions. In the current entertainment industry, it was all about the fan economy. Only with investment can there be returns. The essence is alternative marketing. In addition, not many people knew that after the broadcast of Autumn in My Heart in Korea, the advertising placement contract for the new drama, Full House of Romance, led by Lu Qin and Lu Qin Studio was basically finalized. On behalf of Lu Qin Studio, She signed contracts with 17 domestic and foreign brands, including China Automobile, China Mobile, Thunderbird Watch, Longia Cosmetics, Senki Apparel, etc., with a total value of more than 22 million. Because this part of the interests and other derivative copyrights are in the hands of Lu Qin, and are not shared with other investors, the new drama has not yet started shooting, and the studio has already invested enough money, and it has also realized profits. As for the related novels, comics, brand logos, and other authorizations, they will create more profits. In addition, Autumn in My Heart is still playing a residual heat. TV stations and agents in Japan and several Southeast Asian countries are interested in importing this TV series, and they can make another profit. Under such circumstances, the shortage of funds that Lu Qin Studio once faced was easily solved. Even if he paid for the travel alone, there was no problem. Full House of Romance is scheduled to officially start shooting on May 8th. The locations include China and South Korea, and the total investment is several times that of Autumn in My Heart. There is also a small episode in this, that is, the Big V, Entertainment View, who made a bet with Lu Qin on Wave's blog. Although his face has already been beaten swollen, he still kept his promise after the average ratings data of Autumn in My Heart in South Korea came out. It's just that the place where he ran naked was not in the crowded streets, but in an empty alley. As a result, it only attracted a lot of sarcasm. And Lu Qin has long forgotten about this matter. He went all out to devote himself to the shooting process of Full House of Romance. At the same time, something quite sensational happened in the film and television circle. Because director Zhang Wendian had an irreconcilable conflict with the investors, the new film project, which was originally expected to start shooting this year, was announced to be postponed indefinitely, which was equivalent to an abortion. So, the movie role that the great director had promised to give to Lu Qin was naturally ruined. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.